Guess who's back, 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 back again, again, again. Shady's back. Tell a friend. Guess who's back, 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 guess who's got back. Na na na, no, 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 blah. I created a monster. Okay, no, I'm just kidding. That was fucking cringe. Hi. I'm back again. Oh, Jesus. I scared the shit out of Thumper. Thumper, I'm sorry. You never get scared. I'm sorry. Hi. Oh my god, you want a treat? Come here. Come over here. Come. Up here. Do you see him? I think you saw the little tip of his head peek up. There he is. There he is. Oh man, he's so adorable. Like I said last time, he's shedding like crazy right now though. So he looks kind of silly because his whole straight down the back is like shedded. So it's all like dark gray, but out of the sides, all of his fluff is coming out. So he looks like a ragamuffin. Hi, Jerry. Good to see you. Long time no see. Okay, so, yeah, my last stream I was talking about how I'm like kind of over politics right now. It's just like boring and mundane and I don't know, it's just boring me right now. It's not interesting me right now. So I wanted to get back into like these theological, more philosophical debates. And this one, okay, so this came on my stream, or not on my stream. This showed up on my my timeline, my feed, my homepage, whatever, on YouTube, suggestions. And I don't know if this was actually from 3 days ago, but you can see here, this was posted 3 days ago. So, like, I don't know if, because this is, like, I don't think from either of their channels, right? This is Vegan Gains versus Made by Jimbob. And this is posted on a channel called Stitching No Fap. So, yeah, so I actually don't know how long ago this debate came out. Oh, yeah, look, actually, you can see, so these messages on the screen, it says January 22. So this is, like, really old, actually. So I don't know why it just showed up on my stream yesterday, or my homepage yesterday, but it did. And so I watched it, and I was like, all right, this might be, like, a good conversation to have. And then after watching this, because this is, like, more of a conversation than a debate, an actual debate showed up. Atheism versus Christianity, full debate from the Crucible, and this is from Mike Brigandi's channel, who is, like, actually in this debate. And again, this is, like, from a year ago, so whatever, you can hate on me for covering old content, but I don't really give a fuck, so fuck anyone who cares. It's hard to find, like, good theological debates to cover. And again, I don't even know if I would consider this a good theological debate, but I mean, they're talking about the topic, so if you have any suggestions, send them over to me. So I don't think we're gonna watch this full video here, but I wanted to watch a little bit of it. Both videos have the Made by Jimbob dude. But this video gets, like, really tedious after a while. So it's always a chance to learn. Exactly, right? Discussions to be had. So we'll see how much we get through this, and then we're gonna actually cover the actual Christianity debate. Actually, that might be kind of long. Maybe we should just start with this and cover the other one another day. Yeah, let's do that instead. Alright, yeah, fuck this one. Let's just cover this one. Alright, let's go.
So, gentlemen, you've both been briefed backstage. We did agree that Mike will be opening first, so you'll get 7 minutes for an opening statement. Whenever you're ready, Mike, go ahead.
Great. So first of all, thanks again for having me on, and thanks to my opponent for being here. So today's debate topic is atheism versus Christianity. Now, I'm an atheist. I don't believe in any gods. And I believe that there are some gods, especially the Christian one, that are definitionally unable to exist, meaning they entail logical contradictions or inconsistencies. So today, I will point out these logical inconsistencies, contradictions, and absurdities in Jimbob's theistic view. And not only is there an overwhelming lack of evidence for the Christian God, but there are a myriad of issues and fallacies when it comes to theistic morality, dualism, free will, transcendentals, all of which are typically baked into Christian theology. And hopefully tonight we can address these issues. Now, one of the main issues is a very simple form of the evidential problem of evil. And the premise one goes, God being all-powerful gets everything it desires. Premise two, God desires all people to go to heaven. And from this, we can conclude that if all people do not go to heaven, then either God failed at actualizing his desired outcome, hence is not all-powerful, or God...
Well, already from the bat, wouldn't the Christian argument be, well, God gave man, human, free will. So even though God desires people to come to heaven and to his kingdom or whatever, he gave us the choice. I think that would be the Christian argument.
Does not desire everyone to go to heaven, hence not being all good. Pick your poison. The second issue is divine hiddenness. It seems that the entire point of God under Christianity, the entire reason why God created this world, is that he wants a relationship with his creation. But if God desires...
Hold on, I'm so sorry. I actually do want to watch a couple minutes of the other video. Hold on, just a couple minutes, because I think it gives a good intro
They were saying just...
to what, hold on. We're literally going to watch like 5 minutes. Okay. We're going to watch 5 minutes of this because Jimbob says something in here that I think is kind of important to listen to hear before we listen to the rest of that debate. All right, so sorry, that was kind of messy, but here we go.
Sake of argument, there is a God. However you define that God. I'm interested in why you think one ought to obey or follow that God or his commands.
This is it right here.
Why you ought to? I would say it would be a conditional statement. Just be like, if you want eternal unity with God post-death, as we're presupposing God exists, so if that exists, then eschatology and soteriology would exist. That would follow. I would just say, if you want eternal union with God, then you ought to XYZ.
So there wouldn't be... Right. So it's... So, like, is that the only reason? Because, like, I mean... I
there
could
be a variety of reasons.
Okay, well, would that, like...
So a large part of my issue with understanding, like, the Christian faith is it feels like maybe this is just some people, and maybe I haven't had enough conversations with, like, real Christians, whatever, like, a real Christian is, because it's kind of different for everybody. But it feels like almost a kind of selfish act. Like Jimbob says here, basically, if you want to have, an ever after life with God and his union or whatever, then you would want to believe in God. And to me, so it's just like, so you're only doing this for yourself because you're afraid of death, you don't want to go to hell, or you just want to like live in the afterlife. And to me, that's where it just seems like it can be super manipulative, because I mean, we're all like kind of afraid of death, right? So I just automatically, it just isn't something that I wouldn't trust. And it just seems like many people can be very easily manipulated into fearing hell and therefore believing in God because they want to save themselves. And it's not really about anything else. And to me, that sounds like a kind of fucked up thing to do to people as a god. Like, to put them in this moral conundrum. Like, if God were actually real. Ben Salter says, do some DMT and tell me there isn't a spirit world. This is how it's interesting, too, because I actually have, I have a LSD, Latter-day Saints, LDS. I have an LDS friend, and I've had really interesting conversations with Christian people because we do have a similarity where I am a bit spiritual myself. Again, I have nothing to ground that in, though, besides just my own human experiences, which can't really be trusted because I can't ground any factual evidence in these thoughts. So I do have a belief that there could be a spiritual world. I just don't think it's the Christian one, if there were to be. And I'm also not fully convinced that it even exists to begin with. But I have a lot of really interesting conversations with Christians because we have this similarity. All acts are performed in some manner to their own interest. Even hesitation is in your own best interest. Yeah, I understand that. It just, I don't know. It's just always thrown me off about Christianity. It's like, so the only reason you want to believe in God isn't, it's just a selfish thing. It comes down to not wanting to die after this life. And I also think that causes a problem, leads to more problems too, because it leads to more people living for an afterlife rather than valuing their own life that we know is actually real and does exist. So a lot of people are kind of living to die and live in this afterlife rather than just living for the now in this present life. So I don't know. That's just a problem that I have personally with Christianity. So let's listen to a couple more minutes of this, and we'll go to the actual debate.
So this is
good enough reason for me.
So yeah. So I'm a nihilist and a moral anti-realist, and from my perspective, that reasoning makes complete sense. If you want to do something, then do it. If you don't want to do something, then don't do it. If the set of benefits or consequences either work or don't work for you, do whatever you want. Okay. I from my understanding, you're not a moral anti-realist, you're not a nihilist. So I was expecting more something along the lines that it is something you just should do regardless of whether or not you think it would benefit you or you have an interest in it.
Oh, well, no, I mean, I don't know why I would take that.
I mean, this is kind of stupid too, this argument as well. I don't think that everything we want to do necessarily means that that's what's in our best interest. There's tons of things that are in our best interest that we don't necessarily want to do, but it's good for us or the whole of people. But the Christians tend to be happier and the most giving, which is a sign of an abundance. I don't know if that's true. I've heard that, like, the stat that Christian marriages tend to last the longest. I don't know, and I think it's also really hard to tell. Like, I always give a grain of salt to these happiness studies that people do, like who's the happiest. I just don't think that's something really objectively measurable. But I mean, there are a ton of atheist people who are very happy and fulfilled in their lives and are very giving as well. They understand the purpose isn't to solve the game is unsolvable, yet it is intelligible. It's not about if it's true, it's about does it improve your mental health. So, and that's another argument that I've heard from people too. Some people will say, well, even if Christianity isn't true, is it better for our society? Does a society run better under religious values? And I would say that's a pretty good argument to make. Like, honestly, it's a pretty strong argument. But me personally, I am someone who likes to just seek out truth, even if it's something a little bit more maybe depressing, I guess. But I personally don't even find it depressing. If there's not an afterlife or something, like, that's not something I find too depressing to me, honestly. It's actually a little bit scary thinking about an afterlife. But yeah, that is an argument you can make.
That approach, especially against a nihilist, it's like, I mean, if you're a nihilist, is there any reason why you debate any topic?
Yeah, because I have an interest in it.
There's no reason, like, there's no teleology to it. It's just to pass the time of your life, right?
Well, it's just simply because I have an interest in it.
So, yeah.
All right, I think we're going to go to the other video, but this is another argument that I hear Christians say all the time. It's like, well, what's the point of your life if you don't believe in God or an afterlife? It's like, well, my point of my life is my life right now. Like, why wouldn't my life have a point if I don't believe in a God or an afterlife? I don't understand that argument at all. My life has a meaning because I'm alive and I give it meaning. It's meaningful for me. I want to be alive. I enjoy life. And my friendships mean a lot. My family means a lot. My passions mean a lot. So I don't understand why you need a God to have meaning in life. I never understood that argument. But anyways, let's get into the actual debate we're going to listen to. I just thought that one part from Jimbob was interesting to hear him say that the only reason to really want to believe in Christianity is because of the afterlife. Let's go back a couple seconds.
To heaven. And from this, we can conclude that if all people do not go to heaven, then either God failed at actualizing his desired outcome, hence is not all powerful, or God does not desire everyone to go to heaven, hence not being all good. Pick your poison. The second issue is divine hiddenness. It seems that the entire point of God under Christianity, the entire reason why God created this world, is that he wants a relationship with his creation. But if God desires a relationship with me, why doesn't he reveal himself to me? Surely he has revealed himself to other people, as Christians claim he supposedly came down 2,000 years ago and did just that. These revelations have even convinced people of God without affecting their free will to believe. So you can't just use the free will defense there. If God is omniscient, he could clearly reveal himself to me in a way that he knows would convince me. Yet, no sign of it. Now, some may say, well, you have to be open-minded, Mike. You open your heart to be open. You're not looking hard enough. Well, I am open to there being a God, but if that's not convincing for you, surely the audience could reasonably agree that there are some people in the world who are honestly looking for God, but still have not experienced a revelation. Even though there's nothing stopping God from doing so, we're left with two options then, right? Either God doesn't want a relationship with me, which poses a contradiction from its good nature, or it doesn't exist. But the issues don't stop there. Proponents for Christianity will typically ask a secular person, is morality objective? If the secular person responds back with no, the theist will typically go, aha, see, your morality is preference-based. I win because my morality is objective. Well, the first problem is that morality being preference-based has no hindrance on our capacity to build a meta-ethical or normative ethical framework. But more importantly, Christianity claims to have something it doesn't, objectivity. Not only have Christian ethics changed through time, as we see from the Old Covenant to the New Covenant, but definitionally, God is a subject, hence could not ground normative ethics in any objective way. God's morality is God's preference too. We can also point out contradictions within the system. God is supposedly all good, then drowns the world in a flood, including innocent babies, or when it commands genocide in 1 Samuel 15 and allows sex slavery in Exodus 21:7, SA in Numbers 31, etc., which even most
like this point here, doesn't it just seem kind of weird? Like, he's supposed to be this all good, all loving God. Like, God is literally goodness. Like, they're going to argue later that it's God's nature is just good. Like how we are just human, God's nature is goodness. But it just seems like such a kind of vengeful, like spiteful God to make people believe in him and love him in order to get into the afterlife. And if you don't accept Christ as your savior or whatever, you're gonna burn in hell eternally. Like, to me that just sounds kind of spiteful and vengeful, just to make people fear you. Like, fear doesn't equal love, you know what I mean? If people are afraid of dying and not going into an eternal afterlife, I don't think that equals love. So that's just a confusing concept to me too. Can I show you something? Man is the only creature that needs a day to rest. We will die if we continue to push beyond that boundary. God claims that's a universal gift to all man. They must rest. The Sabbath was made for man, not man for the Sabbath. So the Son of Man is Lord even over the Sabbath. So the Son of Man is Lord even over the Sabbath. Okay, I don't really understand that last sentence, but... So he gave us Sunday like a day of rest? I mean, I guess. I don't know. Okay. Oh, shit.
Ladies and gentlemen,
God damn it.
we all like to play
Not
chess.
Gotham chess.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
Yeah, so what if
Levy. All right, hold on. Let me go back to where we were.
is that it's reasonably assumable to say that all that exists is a natural world, meaning God is supposedly all good, then drowns the world in a flood,
Okay.
including innocent babies, or when it commands genocide in 1 Samuel 15 and allows sex slavery in Exodus.
I apologize for cursing. Means he wrote the laws governing that into reality itself. He wrote the laws governing that into reality itself. Like giving Sunday as a rest day? You don't think that like humans would have just... Is Islam more convincing to you than Christianity? Islam women can at least wear cool clothes? Absolutely not. No, absolutely not.
21:7, SA in Numbers 31, etc., which even most Christians would disagree with and would say is wrong in any context. How could there be such disagreement if Christian ethics is so-called perfect? The truth is, no ethical system is perfect, especially when considering all people have different views, but that's the strength of a secular system. It listens to all points and constantly strives to reach total moral agreement, rooted in as many facts as possible, whereas Christian ethics is forever stuck in the time of barbarism. And finally, as a methodological naturalist, my position is that it's reasonably assumable to say that all that exists is a natural world, meaning within the realms of space, time, matter, and energy. I don't believe there's anything beyond the natural world. However, I am open to there being something beyond it, granted the evidence is sufficient enough. However, I would be happy to make the case as to why naturalism is much more likely than my opponent's theistic view. Christianity makes specific empirical claims of a 6-day creation, a global flood, Adam and Eve, which all could be successfully refuted scientifically. The main one being that the age of the Earth is verifiably 4.5 billion years old via zircon crystal dating, and we have a working nebular model which accounts.
Okay, well, I don't know if he knows or not, but he's arguing with Made by Jimbob, who doesn't believe that dinosaurs existed. So I don't think any of these arguments are going to matter to him because he just thinks none of that is real. He thinks all the scientists are lying about that, which doesn't make sense if you just think about it for 2 seconds. People don't go into paleontology to get rich, right? They do it because it's a passion, because they love dinosaurs or they love just nature's history and shit. So don't you think if all these people were like going into this field and then they were all told, oh, by the way, this thing that you grew up loving and this passion you've been following your whole life isn't real. We've been lying to the public about it. Are you going to get on board and not even get rich? We would definitely have whistleblowers by now saying that, yeah, none of that is real. I understand that we as laymen can't just, can't know and physically observe all these scientific discoveries ourselves. So we do have to trust in scientists. But anytime I have actually gone to research just any scientific topic, and granted that's not a lot, but think about all the people out there who go into all these specific little sciences around the world. They go out and they're usually observable and found to be true. It's not like there's an elite small group of people controlling all of this. And if they find something to be different, they observe it and change the data. They change our knowledge of something. So Jimbob is one of these guys who like doesn't even believe in dinosaurs. And then another argument I've heard from some Christians, I don't know if this is just creationists, but I've heard a creationist make this argument that, well, back when God was first making Earth, the days, like right now it takes 24 hours for the sun to rotate around the Earth, and they were basically saying that back then it took like maybe a year for the sun to rotate around the Earth. Because I guess like how slow the Earth was spinning or something like that. So, and I know this is true, like days used to be, they're called young Earthers, yeah. So I know like it is true days used to be longer, like billions of years ago or whatever. But that's their argument, that it wasn't 6 current days. It was 6, whatever, 4.5 billion years ago days were, which could have been like 6 years actually in our time. But I don't know, like that's just seems kind of silly to me too.
For Earth's formation and planetary disk. A global flood is scientifically and logistically impossible as the Bible describes it. There are salt deposits that are older than millions of years old, meaning they've never seen flooding or even significant rainfall in millions of years. The geological strata completely contradicts a global flood. And how could penguins get from the tallest mountains in Turkey to Antarctica? Did they waddle across the Arabian deserts, all of Africa, and then swim 2,000 miles to Antarctica with zero trace? And biological evolution, being a proven fact, demonstrates that there cannot have been a first person. And you may go, oh, well, Mike, I believe in evolution as a theist still. But this raises more issues than it solves, because you have a magic being who existed for an eternity and then arbitrarily decided to make one particular ape species of humans, watching them go through 4 billion years of needless evolution, imposing mosaic laws on a random population of people when the immediate preceding generation of that group was not under mosaic law, not even seen as God's people. Animal suffering is also another major issue, as Christianity typically holds that animals have no free will nor moral agency. Yet inherent to their nature in the wild is immense amounts of suffering. Seems antithetical to loving being's design. The fact that science works incredibly well and has enabled us to understand the origin of life, natural selection, consciousness, and the cosmos to a sufficient enough degree to render a Christian God unnecessary and even contradictory to the state of affairs of the entire observable universe is why I think atheism is exceedingly more likely over Christianity.
All right. Thank you for that opening statement, Mike.
All right, hold on. Before we get into Jimbob's statement, I'm going to be gone for like 30 seconds. I just have to grab something real quick. Give me like literally 30 seconds. Okay. Thank you. Let's continue.
You still had a little bit of time to spare, but appreciate it very much. Jimbob, whenever you're ready, you have 7 minutes on the clock for your opening statement. Go ahead.
All right, thanks. Okay, tonight, as you heard, atheism versus Christianity. These are combative worldviews, and because they're worldviews, from each of our positions, we're critiquing the other's position. And so if we take a look at the worldview Mike is coming from in order to critique Christianity, we need to examine that to see if it's actually coherent itself. My opponent's worldview states that all actions, thoughts, evaluations, and propositions are merely effects of the previous material causes. From this view, we're all just mechanisms producing outcomes entirely determined by the natural processes. This includes what we believe. This includes what we think is true. Includes the methodology that we swear is the methodology for gaining truth. Well, if this is granted, there is no real purpose of the debate tonight, because whatever my opponent says, he was determined to say it. However I respond, I was determined to respond. And you, the audience, you only have the illusion of carefully considering the positions in question tonight. After all, you're all just a bunch of material cogs at the effect of sounds and inputs you call arguments. My opponent may say, no, just because it's all determined by the laws of physics and chemistry, it doesn't mean we can't come to truth, to which I respond. You were just determined to say that.
Yeah, that's not really how that works. A lot of people get mixed up, and I don't know if Jimbob is doing this. I feel like he should be a little bit smarter than to do this. A lot of people mix up determinism with predeterminism. Determinism doesn't mean something is predetermined and that the future is therefore known. It means that all of the very small varying details and factors in your life will lead you to think a certain way. So because of maybe your upbringing, like take a Christian versus a Muslim. Someone living in like Iraq is probably going to be more determined to be a Muslim because of where they grew up, and somebody living in like Romania is probably going to be more determined to be a Christian because where they grew up. And that's only a small part of the equation, is your childhood environment, as well as your parents, as well as the information that you have been fed throughout your life. So if you've never even heard about Christianity, there's no way you can become a Christian. So, like, you don't have the free will to become a Christian if you don't have the information about what Christianity is, right? So that's kind of the argument. But if you were to come across that information, then you might change your mind. And whether you change your mind is also determined on a whole bunch of different factors, life experience, and stuff like that. Like, I was a Christian, and then growing up, because that's all I kind of knew, and then because of various life experiences and information I learned, I ended up becoming an atheist. I wasn't born and chose what religion to believe. I was only able to believe whatever information I had at the time. So that's what they mean by that. They don't mean that, like, you're always determined to, like, and what he's saying about the answers. Like, if you don't know a certain vocabulary, you are not able to just freely express yourself. Like, say there's something you're trying to communicate to somebody else, but you don't have the vocabulary to do so. If you don't have the vocabulary to do so, you don't have, like, you can't just freely choose to communicate that correctly to somebody. You have to already have the correct vocabulary, the knowledge of the correct vocabulary in order to express it to somebody. So if you have a limited vocabulary, you're determined in your answer. Like, your answer is pretty determined based on the vocabulary you understand. I hope that makes sense. But, like, determinism does not equal predeterminism. I think most people in the chat probably understand that concept, but a lot of people get those two confused.
He will say, no, we can evaluate inputs, to which I will respond, your evaluation itself
I'm not going to the gym at 11 p.m. I don't even go to the gym. I work out from home.
is determined as an output by previous inputs. Any tests, any methods, any verification, in any invalidation, all outputs in a universally determined machine he calls reality. Now, I hope you already see the problem here. If a worldview and all of its methodologies are mere effects of matter in motion, to ask which one is true would be equivalent to asking who has truer molecules. It would be like looking at two different engines and asking which of their exhaust plumes are the true plumes. My opponent will make knowledge impossible because his view can't account for the mind. Now, he said, I don't believe in anything until I have evidence. There's no evidence of this mind that's independent of causes that makes evaluations and comes to truth. So without a mind, there's no knowledge. There's no knowledge. Knowledge is dependent on a mind. The naturalistic worldview, the atheistic worldview cannot tell you what a mind is. The other consequence of my opponent...
A mind comes from consciousness, which comes from, like, what, a bunch of electrons and neurons firing in our brain in some complicated way. Again, like, I'm not a neuroscientist, but pretty sure we figured out, maybe we haven't figured out where consciousness comes from, but because we don't know a lot about our brain. But we do know that if we're not conscious, our minds aren't working. So therefore, consciousness and our minds are connected to our brains. That argument can be used for any belief. Example, you only have your beliefs due to the modern secular leaning society you live in. Yeah, 100%. That's what determinism is. If you happen to live in a more secular family or a secular society, I mean, you could be atheist and then say you've never heard about Christianity. You don't have the free will to just be a Christian if you've never heard about it. But reality is intelligible. That's what I meant. It's not just we're conscious. It's that the universe is capable of being understood. Yeah, it's only capable of being understood through conscious beings, though. Right? I mean, I would argue maybe some animals are able to understand the universe, right? Because they understand the best ways to hunt. They change, like, at least smarter animals will change their hunting strategies depending on, like, I don't know, changes in their environment or changes in their prey behavior. They understand they need to eat that. They understand how their prey works, and they adapt and adjust. Whether they're, like, consciously doing that, that's a different thing, but they have the mind to understand they need to eat and they need to hunt. I remember, I think I've said this on stream before, but I remember in, like, high school, my friend said, like, something really trippy to me that, like, opened my mind a lot, and they were like, oh my god, what was it? It was like, we are the universe comprehending itself. And so I was like, whoa, that's kind of crazy. Like, we are just, like, matter that has evolved from the universe comprehending what we're made of, like, what we came from, the world that evolved us. And that always kind of tripped me out.
Opponent's view is that he has no justification for claiming we ought to value truth. What if we granted Christianity was a mass delusion? From his view, because he's a naturalist, the view itself, coming to one view or the other, is just a natural consequence of a process, right? That's all. So there's no claim there's no justification from the naturalist to say we ought to value truth or come to true positions, because all positions are equal under the view that we're just machines spouting out sounds in the form of what we believe are arguments or worldviews. Any position a person comes to, they were simply determined to come to it. In fact, there is no they, there's just it's. Under my opponent's view, they or you or me, we're all it's. We're cogs in a machine at the effect of physical law. So anytime my opponent presents some incredulity, let's say toward Christianity or something like this, just remember, regarding my beliefs or his beliefs, keep in mind, according to his own view, he was determined to oppose them. And I was determined to hold them as true. This is cause. This is causal. You can't stop law, right? If a worldview or position makes knowledge impossible, then from what epistemic foundation can they even begin to critique my view or any other view? If we all held my opponent's view, the title of this debate could just as well be Natural Effects versus Other Natural Effects. Which one is true? So why would it matter whether or not a worldview is true, including Christianity, if there are just epiphenomenal effects of matter in motion? My opponent will say he has no reason to believe in God. I would say you have no reason to believe in your own reasoning. It's just matter in motion. So the question is, did Mike come here today with his own will, with his own mind, with his own beliefs, with his own argumentation, or is he just a machine at the effect of previous dominoes falling? He has to accept the latter because that is his position. So from that position, why would you even argue the truth of another worldview? Why would truth matter? How would you even get to discerning the truthfulness of two different positions? Put it this way. If my brain is a machine and it spouts out exactly what it's supposed to given the inputs, and his brain is a machine and it spits something else out, how could we possibly come to know which one's true if any methodology you offer is just more machines in motion doing what they lawfully do?
Well, we do this through observation, right? Like, enough humans come together to determine their observations and their findings, and you do this through scientific testing, right? Truth comes from multiple, like, observation and then verification from others, and then testing, scientific testing, I would say. And I'm not gonna lie, like, our truth, our human reality could 100% be subjective to us as humans. There's obviously, can you guys hear my cat? I'm in my bunny room, so she can't come in here and she's crying at the door. But our reality might be subjective to us. There is obviously tons of things out there that we are not aware about, and science obviously changes over time too as we come to learn more. So science is just our understanding, our current understanding of our reality around us. So more infinitely complex bubbles. I mean, this is all complex, right? A lot of people just want to oversimplify this and try to dumb it down, but none of this is simple. Like, you know what I mean?
So from this position, I could have came here as a Muslim. I could have come here as some sort of New Age hippie who believed in, like, you know, starseed people. It wouldn't actually matter if you're debating a naturalist, an atheist that holds Mike's position. Why? All of the views are equally valuable and equally useful, because all they are the effects. They are the smoke coming out of a biological engine we call the body and the brain. From that view, how could you argue? How could you even debate? I mean, there's no point in even debating from the view he holds, because there's no...
Yes, I said the deeper you go, the less you know. 100%. 100%, that's how I feel. The more I learn about life, the less I feel I understand about life. 100%. And also the more I feel like I don't know anything.
Ultimate purpose to get to something truer. And that's my time.
All right, thank you for that opening statement, Jimbob. Before we get into it, I want to remind everybody one more time, if you want to send in your super chats, I will be showing them on screen as the debate goes on, but we will actually read them and address them at the end of the debate. So send in those super chats. We will get to all of them, either on YouTube or the donut chat link. And if you want to call in directly, you can get a stream link from the mods in the Discord, and you can call in, ask your questions directly. Gentlemen, I expect this to be a very contentious debate. I understand you both have your lines of arguments and lines of questions that you want to go down. I want to make sure you get a chance to do that. I will try to be as hands-off as I can unless there's just constant interruption or, you know, total derailment. But try to be charitable with one another, and I will try to stay out of it as much as I can. The floor is open. We'll start with Mike. Go ahead.
Great. Yeah. So, Jimbob, you said that I cannot know truth. I think your position is that I cannot come to truth in a deterministic world. Is that correct?
It's worse than that. There's no I. There's just a machine. Yeah.
Right. But the point is I can't know truth without free will. Is that correct?
That mechanisms don't produce truth. Yes.
Okay. So, you know, when you say something's impossible, right, that implies that there's a contradiction. So what exactly is the contradiction in a determined world where there's truth that is itself determined?
You're assuming truth. There's a truth that's accessible. What is this truth you're referring to in the statement?
Yeah, good question. Truth is merely descriptive, right? It's just a language you use to describe reality, right? So again, what's the contradiction in a descriptive theory of truth in which
contradictions themselves aren't even possible under your view?
Okay, well, that's another claim you're making. I'm asking you for the contradiction, right? See, I'm doing an internal critique here, right? I'm asking you, where's the contradiction? All you've done by saying that is adding another claim to your search,
when you say contradiction, right, you're assuming that we have access to the laws of thought, right?
Right, but I'm doing an internal critique, right? I'm putting on your shoes for the sake of the argument. Where exactly?
How are you doing an internal critique of my internal critique?
I'm putting on your worldview for a second, right? I'm saying, okay, great, God exists, we can get logic. Now go ahead and point out the contradiction in a universe where the truth is determined.
In the universe where you don't have access to truth, it can't be determined.
Where was Jimbob doing a internal critique? What? Okay. Mike was asking him questions, but all right.
So it's not a contradiction because you can't even get to a contradiction because you don't have access to truth. So that's like asking, like,
no, you're not getting it. You're not understanding, right?
What's truth? Right? I asked you to define what truth is. A description of reality, right? Okay, right, I'm going to tell. Listen, stop there. I can't grant you that under your worldview. Why? Because you making a description of reality is merely an epiphenomenal effect of previous causes under your own view.
Yeah, where's the contradiction there?
You don't have access to contradictions because when you make a statement, all you're doing, it's no different than like farting, passing gas, or something just happening in the world, right?
Yeah, so you're kind of lost here. I'm asking you, I'm putting on your shoes for the sake of the argument. I'm saying, hey, Jimbob says that we cannot get to truth without God, right? Or without free will.
Mm-hmm.
Where is this? If you're going to say it's impossible, I'm asking you for the contradiction there. Under your framework, right? But I'll even take on for the sake of the argument, your definition of truth, right? So go ahead and point out the contradiction with your logic, demonstrating that it's impossible for me to have truth. Go ahead.
Do you need to assume logic, right, and run it properly to have access to truth?
Look,
I asked you a question.
No, I asked you a question first. You don't answer with another question back, right?
Okay, put it this way.
Look, Jimbob. I'll duplicate you, right? I'll just say I'm Jimbob. My name is Jimbob, right? Now go ahead and point out the contradiction that shows me that I cannot get truth in a deterministic world, because you're saying it's impossible.
Because listen to me. Me, if you believed what you believe, me pointing to a contradiction would just be a determined outcome of physical action.
You're deflecting.
No, that's a descriptively true, right?
No, I mean, that doesn't really matter, though. You guys are having a debate right now. It doesn't really matter how each of you, came to your current beliefs. You guys are arguing. The fact is, you both have these different beliefs, and now you're arguing them. Jerry says he's saying logos is required to arrive at truth. Truth does not exist to the rock. Yeah. Atheists believe in logos, right? I mean, that's just basically the human mind, right? I'm not super familiar with the logos and pathos stuff, but that's my understanding. It says logos in rhetoric is an appeal to an audience, logic, and reasoning. It involves using evidence, facts, statistics, and logical reasoning to persuade an audience. It is one of the three modes of persuasion alongside ethos, credibility, and pathos, emotion. Okay, so it's logos is like logic. Got it. Okay.
Right? Do you deny it? I'm gonna ask you. No. I'm gonna ask you. You have to concede to this because this is your view. When you ask me a question, when you ask, produce the contradiction, right? You have to believe, from your view, that whatever I say was determined based on previous laws, right?
Yeah, I already look.
Yes or no?
Look. I'm putting on your worldview for the sake of the.
You're not answering the question.
Because your question.
So you're not going to answer that question. I'm actually demonstrating. Of course it does, dude. It demonstrates we have no access to knowledge.
Look. So I'll do this again for you, right? I am putting on your worldview. I am assuming your definition of truth. I'm assuming your worldview.
You're not.
I'm assuming everything about you.
No, you're not.
Now, I am. This is what
not.
I'm doing. I'm doing
Dude,
it right now. I'm ready.
No, you're not. Listen.
I'm already doing it.
Listen.
I can't stand Jimbob. Why did I choose this? I thought it would be an interesting conversation. I mean, we're going to watch it. But I cannot stand Jimbob. He is such a little weaselly, yappy, whiny guy. And he always interrupts people and then yells at people for interrupting him. It's so annoying. But all right, we're going to get through this. But he's already triggering me. I'm not going to lie. The majority atheist view is that nothing exists outside the physical and material world. Logic doesn't fit into this worldview. Why wouldn't logic fit into this worldview? You're saying because it's not material? I think saying that... so our minds are come from the material world. They come from electrons and neurons firing in our material brains, our physical brains. That doesn't mean that our minds don't, they don't materially exist, but they exist due to material and physical things happening in our brains. So, the words I'm speaking aren't a physical thing, but clearly atheists believe that words exist, right? Same with mathematics. So I don't think that's true, Adam.
I started with an internal critique.
No. Listen. I'm already doing this, right? I'm already putting on your worldview for the sake of the argument.
What part of what you're saying is my worldview?
Everything.
No, that doesn't say anything. What exact part are you holding right now that's my worldview?
I'm a Christian, and I think that you can't have truth without God.
No, I never said you can't have truth without God. You didn't steel man me. I didn't say you can't have truth without God. I said you're.
Oh, okay. So
see, now that's. I want you all to notice that he deliberately misrepresented something I never said. So here we go again, Mike. If you ask me to produce a contradiction in any given worldview, not just yours, from your view, yes or no, when I respond by opening my mouth and making word sounds, is what I'm saying completely determined by previous causes? Yes or no?
Yeah, and look, we can still get truth under a deterministic world. And
that's called begging the question.
No.
I asked you a simple question. Is it yes or no?
Question begging. Where's the question begging?
One question at a time. Did you say yes?
I said yes. We can get truth.
Okay, let's start that. Let's start here. You ask.
No, you're not going to deflect. Look.
Okay.
I asked you.
Yeah. You can't answer this.
Listen,
you're done here. You're toast. You can't get the truth. Why?
Right.
No, you can't get the truth. Here's.
But they can't explain what physical material logic is made of. It's not made of physical brain tissue. Yeah, of course it's not made of physical brain tissue. It's a reaction that is caused from physical and material stuff going on in our brains. So it's a reaction. It's a causal. It's something that physical and material stuff causes. It's not made of anything material. That doesn't mean we don't think it exists.
Wow, I'll tell you. Listen up, kid. Listen up. I'll say it again. Mechanism 1, called Mike, produces a statement. Mechanism 2, called Jimbob, produces a counter statement. Both are determined by law, correct?
Right.
By law?
Okay, so if they're both determined by law, I'm going to ask you, how do we know which one's true?
Okay.
Because truth, when something is true, it means it describes accurately what reality is.
Okay,
right?
so when I come... Okay,
now,
so when I... Okay, hold on. One step at a time.
No,
Don't
you're
get
not,
scallop.
you're not
Don't get scallop. No, you're stuck here. You're stuck in the corner here. I'm not going to let you out of here. Listen, if now you're going to, well, whoever describes truth accurately, that's just more claims that are determined by previous causes, right?
Right, and what's wrong with that kind of deterministic mechanism yielding truth? What's wrong with it?
Because here's what's wrong with it. Again, mechanism A produces a proposition out of sounds. Mechanism B produces sounds. They're both propositions. I ask you, how do you know which one's true? And you say, well, we have to describe reality. I'm saying describing reality is just more mechanisms producing effects.
Yeah, why doesn't that get you to truth?
It's endless.
Why doesn't that get you to?
I asked you, how do we get to truth?
You're not answering the question. Why doesn't that get you to truth?
Because it's just going back. It's just kicking the can down the road, saying another proposition is true.
That's truth. We can get truth under determinism.
Okay, you saying that you can, and me explaining how you can't. You haven't actually described how you can.
You just literally conceded we can get truth.
No, I didn't.
Yes, because truth. I said you can descript. Jimbob, you're so lost. Listen.
If descriptions are determined, dude, you don't have access to truth.
Why not?
Because every description a person makes is already predetermined by causal effects. So you don't have an independent mind.
See, okay, maybe Jimbob is mixing this up. He said predetermined. Maybe he is confusing determinism with predeterminism. I kind of thought he would be a little smarter than that. Unless that was just a slip up, because to be honest, in determinism debates, I have accidentally said predetermined. Accidentally, but I also haven't done this as much as Jimbob has. A reaction to what action? The action is like the neurons of our material brains firing. So our minds are a reaction to that. Or maybe not a reaction, but a result. Yeah, again, like I'm not a neuroscientist, but from my understanding, our brain matter has like neurons and signals in it that are made of like electrons and shit like that, which cause then our minds, our consciousness, and our thinking capabilities, which is basically our mind, our how we decide things, like how we make decisions, how we process fear. This is all stuff in our mind, which is immaterial, but it it is a result of our material brains.
Mind to evaluate.
Why can't truth be predetermined?
Because mechanisms don't produce truth.
Why not?
Show me where a mechanism can produce truth.
That's question begging.
Show me where a mechanism. What's a mechanism?
A systematic system.
A systematic system. Can you point to a mechanism?
Inputs and outputs.
Okay.
Oh,
Give me.
by the way, computers do the same thing our brains do, right?
Okay.
They
So are you saying
produce truth statements?
do they produce them or do
It's a
they convey
mechanism.
them? Do they convey them or produce them?
What's the difference?
One is can you produce a computer to produce false statements?
Sure.
So are they conveying false statements?
Sure.
So are they producing them or do we code them to produce what we want?
Yeah.
They can deterministically get there. The point is that they can determine.
Computers can determine it.
But yeah, the computers are obviously coded by humans. So we could code them to produce false statements, obviously. Computers are an extension of humans, right?
Program themselves.
You're not gonna do that.
Get the fuck out of here.
Listen to me. A computer can come to truth statements or false statements deterministically, right? The same thing applies to our brains. Truth is merely that which describes reality, and just because it's determined doesn't mean that it can't be true.
How is a computer made? Who made a computer?
Why does that matter? The point
because you just stated a loaded statement. You just said a computer can come to truth.
I wish Mike would ask, okay, let's flip the script. You're saying determinism can't produce truth for some reason. Why does God produce truth? Logically explain how God, believing in God, believing in God produces truth. I feel like that's when you start getting circular. You're just like, well, God is truth. What is truth? Truth is God. What is God? God is truth. LOL. We also have reason, meaning we argue about what arrives at truth most efficiently. Yeah.
Statements and truth claims and conclusions, right? How?
Deterministically, right?
You mean
because reality must comport to his will. But what makes you say that though? Because that's all just stemming from a belief, right? You can't prove that. This is something that you believe, which is fine. But I don't know why Christians think it holds any more objectiveness than determinism. I think both are subjective, honestly. But determinism, what we determine to be truth is subjective to us and our experiences and our abilities to comprehend our surroundings. Because there are laws of man written into the universe itself. Where are these laws written? In the Bible, which was written by humans? I just don't, that again just sounds very subjective. It sounds subjective to the Bible.
When you say deterministically, you mean a human being codes the computer to do such?
That's determinism, yes.
Okay, so it requires a mind, right?
Well, that's determined too.
Okay, does it require a mind?
No, it doesn't require a mind.
Okay, it doesn't. Okay, everybody listen. Everyone listen.
No.
A computer doesn't require a mind to code it. That's Mike's position.
That's actually not what I said. I said that systems don't need minds, but our mind is a system
we're talking about a computer.
Naturally. But
talking about a computer.
Of course, a computer needs a mind as we understand that.
Okay,
so look. The point is that you have not shown a contradiction, even under your own framework, in which it's impossible that I cannot come to truth deterministically.
Sure, I did.
And you just conceded that computers can.
Computers are an example of a mind-dependent machine that's coded.
Jimbob, can computers come to truth?
If we want to program them way, they can come to falsities too. Guess what?
Jimbob,
whatever we program it to.
Under my view, that's all determined, right?
Exactly. So now how do you get to truth?
So now you no, listen, Jimbob. Now you have the burden to demonstrate that computer is
This
not
is getting
determined to be that
frustrating
way.
already.
That's the problem, right? Now you're
We're
begging
only
the question.
25 minutes
And
in.
you're
Oh,
arguing, you're
God.
presupposing that it requires something metaphysical.
Mike, you admitted it requires a mind. You already admitted it.
And those minds are determined.
The computer doesn't program itself to come to its conclusions.
Right, but there's a deterministic factor. That
Why are they talking about computers?
Yeah, you're assuming the
Just
mind is
like
determined.
everything that we come to in our minds, it's all determined.
No, forget your assumption that the mind is
Okay,
determined.
I think I know what Mike is saying. I don't know why he's saying it. But basically, a computer is not able to freely like code itself. It's not able to, it doesn't have the free will to have its own to compute its own data that it wishes, right? It is determined to when humans code it to do that. So a computer can't come up with something if it's not coded by humans. And so I think Mike is saying that humans can't come up with something if we haven't been introduced to it. So if this information hasn't been computed into us or coded into us, whether it be through life experience or knowledge or even genes or something, then we wouldn't be able to freely produce that information either. I think that's what Mike is saying. I don't know why they're going down this rabbit hole, though, to be honest.
Okay, you can't even justify mind, by the way. You only have a brain.
Oh, sure.
That's the only thing your system has.
So brains can produce minds.
What's a mind then? What's a mind? Emergent property. Just say it. Just say it.
It's a mind is an emergent electrochemical
Emergency.
process.
Okay. So where is it?
Yeah,
where is it not? Where is it not? Where is it not in the brain?
The mind is everywhere in the brain.
It's
an
everywhere.
emergent process. Yeah, it's what the
Can
brain
you
does.
pick it up? Can you?
It's not in a physical place. The mind is not in a physical place.
Pick it out?
Thoughts are electrochemical. They're physical.
That's a thought. Can you pick the mind that the thing is evaluating the thought?
Yeah, we can measure brain states.
hold
We
it?
can really measure things in fMRI. We know that thoughts are physical entities.
I didn't say brain states. I said the mind as a collective. Can you
There's
hold
no
it?
difference in my view, right? So brain states are just physical things in the brain.
So the machine being, let's say, an engine, would you say what's equivalent to an engine producing smoke, the brain produces the mind?
Yeah, deterministically, yes, the brain can produces the mind.
Okay.
Now,
Okay, so
can I interrogate you now? Because
Well,
that's all you're
you
doing
don't-
this entire
no,
debate.
no,
This is
well, no,
this is
no,
why you
'cause-
think you're great.
Yeah, see, and this is something I've noticed with Christians a lot, and I'm like really hoping, Christian debaters, I will say, I'm really hoping this doesn't go like this the entire way. But lots of times, it turns out to be, these debates turn to be the Christians constantly interrogating the atheist worldview, and the atheist, like, I rarely see atheists doing the same back, interrogating the Christian worldview. It's always just breaking down atheism and why it doesn't make sense, rather than breaking down Christianity and why that doesn't make sense to an atheist. So I hope Mike can get in here and start interrogating Jimbob a little bit too. Again, we're pretty early in.
you can't. Well, no, you can't, because your view can't come to truth. So there's no foundation to interrogate.
That's why from the get-go, I put on your worldview. And
Can
asked you to stop
What you're
talking, dude.
what
Listen.
you're what you're asking is this, Mike. Can I deterministically make sounds that you could then deterministically respond to, please? Is that what you're saying?
No,
Say
that's
yes.
not what I asked you.
Then what else would it be?
What I asked you is this, right? I will assume your position for the sake of the argument. I'll put on your review. I'll be Jimbob. Now, Jimbob, where is the contradiction? Where is the impossibility that deterministic mechanisms cannot yield truth? Where? Where's the contradiction there?
The moderator ain't working.
It's not a
too
formal
hard.
argument.
He will.
What?
I'm
I asked
sure
you a question.
he'll have
If-
his work cut out for him.
If a mechanism produces an output that's governed by previous law, right? The thing that's evaluating the truthfulness of that output is also at the effect of inputs only. Do you understand this?
Yeah, that still can be yield truth.
So the
I'm asking
question
you,
is,
where's
the question is, you're making the claim that truth
Stop
is possible.
deflecting. Dude, stop deflecting this, right? I'm going to ask you one more time. Where is the contradiction in a universe that is determined to yield truth under your
Okay,
view.
the contradiction is premise 1, truth exists. Premise 2, you have no methodology for acquiring truth,
Wait, do you know what a contradiction is, Jimbob?
where A doesn't equal A. The entailment is a contradiction.
No, P and not P, right? That's the point. You're assuming a position and negating at the same time. That's a contradiction.
Does truth need to
And
exist?
this is really sad that you don't
Dude,
understand what a contradiction
saying sad,
is.
oh, shut
And
up,
you
sad
can't point
bullshit.
it out.
Your emotional bullshit's not going to happen. It works on TikTok, but not here. Listen, buddy. When you say
How
truth exists,
am I emotional
listen
right
to me. To say that truth is possible, right? To apprehend, you need first a definition of truth, right?
Yeah, and
Okay.
I gave you one.
Okay,
right?
your definition of truth
descriptive
is
of what exists.
describing. So your definition of truth is describing reality accurately, right?
Right.
Okay, so again, if mechanism 1 describes reality and mechanism 2 describes reality, and I ask you, how do you determine which one's true given they're both effects of inputs? You say, let's go to another input effect and see if it's true, right? Okay,
Yeah,
so let's
that's
do
all
it.
the-
Yeah. You don't just have two people describing, like, you need this information to be verified by enough people, preferably as many people as possible. And then ideally, we would like to be able to test this information to see if it works consistently. Right? I don't feel like that's that hard to understand. Like, if we say, somebody says, I believe that the truth is I need to drink water to survive. And somebody else is like, oh, well, I've been drinking chocolate milk my whole life. I've never had a sip of water. So I think that you don't need water to survive. And then a lot of people are like, oh, well, I need water to survive. And then they test the chocolate milk and they figure out there's water in it. And that's why that person is surviving. I don't even know if you could survive off of chocolate milk. Maybe this isn't a good example. But like, if one person, maybe a more extreme example, one person's like, no, I don't think we need water to survive. And then they never drink water. And then they die. And then everybody else who is drinking water survives. That's just like a very extreme example of truth through observation, truth through verification, and truth through field testing, I guess you would say. Or like another example would be like, can cicadas fly? Oh, I've never seen a cicada fly, so I don't know if it can fly. And then one person sees one fly. Oh, here's a good example. Like, Jane Goodall, when she first went to Africa, she saw the gorillas, or was it not gorillas? She saw chimpanzees using sticks to, using sticks as tools to catch ants and eat ants. And nobody believed her until multiple people came down to verify her information. And then they watched the chimpanzees and studied that that is indeed what they do. And they've come to the conclusion that that is truth. That actually occurs in nature. Enough people verified it.
Deterministic ways to get truth.
Yeah.
By the way, Jane Goodall, she is like, I can't believe my boyfriend didn't know who Jane Goodall was. That broke my heart. She is like my hero. I watched her documentary recently and I literally cried because she is just such a hero. She's such a baddie. She's so amazing. And she was a mother through it all and everything. Like, really crazy. She was like 20 years old when she first went to Africa by herself. And then they sent a photographer out there. Crazy. She's so amazing. My boyfriend didn't know who she was. I was really disappointed. Anyway, sorry. Okay, tangent over.
So here, I'll show you how ridiculous it is. Mike makes a descriptive claim about reality. Jimbob makes a descriptive claim about reality. Someone from the audience randomly comes up on the screen, and we ask them, okay, which one of the descriptions is accurate, right? Now, according to your view, all three of us, what we're saying is equally the same. They're the same values because there's no access to which one's true The reason there's no access to which one's true is because the third one, who's the arbiter, who's the evaluator, who's the selector,
There's
is
no
also
arbiter. That's not
is at the. Okay, so who's the arbiter of truth then?
Yeah, there is no arbiter.
So
of truth,
okay,
right?
great. So you can't have
Truth is-
access to truth.
Truth is that which describes reality accurately, and that is something that we can simply observe, right? I can go outside, I can observe.
You're determined to.
Hold on.
Hang on, Jimbob. Let him finish his
You're
answer.
determined to
Hold on,
observe it.
Jimbob. Hold on. Let him finish his answer, and then you'll get back in there. Go ahead.
No.
I know you're anxious. So the point is that as a physical brain, which we know is physical and thoughts are physical, we don't need God for that. I can observe my reality. My reality stimulates my brain, my logical areas of my brain to light up and produces a descriptive statement in the form of language, which then says, hey, a car is there. The car drives away, the car is no longer there. Those are truth statements we can make completely deterministically, completely naturally, completely physically. So your entire rhetoric that, oh, there has to be a third party, well, that's nonsense, and I can prove it. Hey, Jimbob, does God know truth?
God is truth.
Okay, God is truth, correct. Okay. So when it comes to God, can God choose to not know truth?
What? No, God. Truth isn't separate from God. So your question assumes there's a separation.
Oh, so God is determined to know the truth.
Determined? No, that's a category error.
So does God freely choose the truth, or is he truth?
God's non-dependent from my view. So you're not doing a steel man. Giggle
That
away.
doesn't matter, right? Look,
Yeah, it
the point
does.
is that- the
Of
point
course
is
it
that-
matters.
Okay, I know you.
It doesn't matter if I'm accurately critiquing your view. It should just be my view about your view. Get the fuck out of here.
Okay, calm down. So another
Pretty calm.
ridiculous absurdity that Jimbob has here is, hey Jimbob, does God know the future? The truth of the future?
Sure.
Oh, so the truth is predetermined
No, you can have secondary causality.
because it already happened. The truth is there. We're just
What?
predetermined
No.
to get there.
No, that's a big jump.
Yeah.
That's silly.
Why
The
is it
truth-
silly?
the truth
That's not an
already
argument.
happened?
Jimbob,
No.
Jimbob, saying
Hold on.
it's silly is not an
No,
argument.
no, hold on.
I mean, if God knows the future and he does know the truth, therefore it would have to be predetermined, right? Because whether or not there could be various choices that people may make, God ultimately would know which choice the person will ultimately make. So therefore, they cannot make another choice.
If someone knows the truth, an all-knowing mind that we can't comprehend, not a human mind, that's godly, right? God mind, which is not human. How do you follow that if God knows the truth, that means the truth already happened?
Because you just conceded that God knows the future, which means the future is predetermined.
If I happen to know the future, did it already come to pass?
Yeah, but isn't God's knowledge
Yeah,
infallible?
but that's what you said. So you're going to correct yourself or what?
No,
Okay, so Terry says God is the only creature with true free will. So does God have the free will to not be good? And good is that which God does in his own best interest. So does God have the free will to choose not to be good? Because I'm pretty sure Jimbob is about to argue at some point in this debate that God's nature is good. Just like how he's saying truth is God and truth is not separable. Is that a word? Truth is not separate from God. He says it about goodness too. God is good and truth. That's his nature. So does he have the free will to not be good? Does God determine his own nature? Just curious.
see,
No, you're not going to?
No,
Okay.
you gotta listen, right?
You said it happened already.
you're not giving me a chance to clarify, and this is really annoying, right?
It should be.
So, when it comes to truth, you're saying that God knows the future, which necessitates it being predetermined because it's there, right? The truth is there, regardless of what we think or do. So the point is that we are on trajectory to coming to that truth of reality.
No.
So that's the point.
You're still
The
not
point
doing
is that,
internal
the point is that
critique.
the truth is determined even under your own framework. It's determined.
No.
Okay,
Truth
Jimbob,
is
hang
necessarily-
on, Mike, hang on. Let Jimbob get.
Okay, yes, the definition of good changes according to what God thinks it should be. Okay, interesting. But that would mean that God can't do anything but good. He can't choose to be bad because anything he would do would always be good.
get in here. He says you're not properly representing him, so let's just make the argument or clarify where he's not.
From my view, what you're doing is conflating. You keep assigning this description of things happening as truth, right? From my view, God is truth is the precondition for the way you describe truth, which is a description of reality that changes based on people's inputs that can totally be contradictory to each other. So if God is a precondition for us to even describe truth, right, God wouldn't be then in the same category in which we describe happenings in the world.
Yeah, that's question begging, right? You're just presupposing God.
Whether you agree with it or not.
Look, this is why I'm asking you.
If you're going to do an internal critique, it doesn't matter if it's question begging. It's an internal critique.
What?
Okay. So no, you have to get you got to get the distinction so that you don't falsely try to argue. Don't you want to actually argue against someone's position and not your idea of it?
Jimbob, can you come down for a second and recognize that?
Why?
You're question begging here. You're just simply presupposing God gives me truth, and that's it. When I give you a perfectly valid method of coming to truth without God, another naturalistic worldview. That's why from the very first question I asked you was, where's the contradiction? You have failed to do that. Just because you're failing to do so doesn't mean you can cry about it.
No, listen.
Either concede that you don't have a fucking contradiction or go away.
Your view can't even account for contradictions because everything's determined.
Why not? Why can't I? Where's the contradiction
Because using logic would be determined. However a brain uses logic would be determined.
Why is that impossible for logic to be determined and come to true statements?
Because whoever's declaring that someone came to a true statement or not was determined to come to that position. So we don't know if it's true or not.
That's a tautology.
We don't know if it's true or not.
Jimbob, do you know? Actually, you're right. You actually don't know what a contradiction is, and you showed that today.
No, your view is worse than pointing a.
So the mighty Filbert says, yes, the book of Isaiah has God saying he creates evil. I form the light and create darkness. I make peace and create evil. I, the Lord, do all these things. So therefore, if God is good, and the definition of good changes according to what God thinks it should be, God creating evil, therefore, would be goodness, right? Which just seems kind of like twisted to me. Maybe contradictory. I don't know. Which Jimbob means to say is the truth would change the moment he showed up to a scene. He becomes the most true thing.
Contradiction. It doesn't account for contradictions. It's worse.
Yeah, that's not what I asked you, right? What I asked you was, I'm putting on your worldview. I'm asking you to demonstrate the contradiction in a deterministic world where there's truth. You have yet to do so. And the fact that you're hinged on this point is embarrassing because I had a whole opening statement full of fallacies that you're not willing to go through. Because you're stuck on this nonsense that you think is good but isn't.
Truth requires a mind to evaluate different propositions.
Yeah, we can have natural.
Your view doesn't have a mind; it just has a machine.
Well,
that's the contradiction.
Why can't mechanical brains be minds?
Because the same reason calculators can't be minds without a mind programming them. So the reason because
I mean, couldn't you say that our DNA is kind of like our computer code? Obviously, I would say that we weren't coded by a intelligent being. But our DNA is kind of similar to a computer's code, right?
Because mechanisms,
because it doesn't matter if.
Hang on, Mike. Hang on. Let Jimbob finish his answer. Go ahead.
Because mechanisms don't produce truth. When I ask you, can a mechanism produce truth? Right? I asked you to point to any machine that can produce truth, and you went to a computer that requires a mind.
It requires a mind, but that mind can
What's a mind?
Jimbob, listen. That mind can still be determined to produce that computer. See, the entire point is that there's no contradiction in the deterministic view in totality. You have yet to show that. You're just question begging the entire time. You're not actually engaging in my question.
So you're saying there should be a bunch of computers that were determined by human minds to just not work.
Yeah, determined things can produce false statements or true statements. That's the point.
No,
Now,
no.
can you show?
No,
See,
yeah,
you're
dude.
deflecting again. I'm not gonna leave
No,
this point.
no,
I'm
no,
not
no,
gonna leave this point until you
You're-
give a
you're-
contradiction.
Dude,
I'm not
you're
gonna
stuck.
leave this point
You're
until
way
you give a
stuck in a
contradiction.
corner here. You just said this.
Where?
okay?
Where am I stuck here?
Here.
Show the
Here's
contradiction.
what you said. You said the machine can still convey and produce a true or false thing. That assumes that you have access to what's true or false. Correct? Like a calculator.
Yeah,
Okay,
truth is
hold on.
just what
Let's do an
describes
example.
reality.
Okay, let's do an example. A calculator produces the outcome 2 + 2 = 4. Another calculator, for some reason, no matter what you punch in, it produces the word boobs.
Yeah, just like brains can malfunction.
Okay, just stick with
And-
the example for a second. Just
You
track
need a
it. Just
functioning
track.
brain to-
You
Jimbob,
can't even
you
track,
need a
dude. You
functioning
can't
brain
even.
to come to
You
a
can't even
truth.
track it. You just run. Okay. What did I just establish?
Nothing.
Okay. So we'll do it again because you don't want to listen. Okay. There's a calculator that produces 2 + 2 = 4. There's a calculator that just
Okay.
produces boobs no matter what. Okay. Are you saying that from your view, you can account for which one's saying a true statement or not? Because from your view, if the calculator was determined to produce
Jimbob, the
boobs,
truth
it's
just requires-
true.
The truth just requires verification.
No.
That's all required.
Is
No, I don't think that's what he's saying. I don't think he's saying just because what is he saying? A mechanism is producing something that means it's automatically truth. Mike is saying mechanisms can produce truth, not that they always produce truth.
Is the
Of course, you could have malfunctioning calculators, just as you have malfunctioning brains. The point is that there are deterministic ways in order to achieve truth. You can still have truth even though it's determined, and you have neglected all the arguments I give against yours, showing you
give
that
any
even
arguments.
under your view, truth is determined because God is determined to know the truth, just as we all are.
No. I'm saying
Truth
I'm
is
asking you.
determined necessarily.
Is the boob producing calculator true, producing truth statements?
No.
Truth can't be what we observe to be true, it's circular. And a lie can be indistinguishable from reality, which means the truth is a state of being, not reality. Well, that's why I said earlier, I do think truth is subjective to us. What we believe to be truth is subjective to our capabilities and observations. It doesn't mean it is actual reality. It is our best understanding of it through our subjective lens. But I also don't think that's any different from saying, I don't think that's any more circular than saying God is truth. God is truth and truth is God. So I don't think Christianity has a one-up on atheism in this aspect. How do you know which one is true provided you don't already know 2 + 2 = 4? Well, you wouldn't. You would have to figure that out, right? You would have to collect evidence to show you which one is true.
Why not?
Because it
It was
wasn't
determined.
verified.
So what's the difference between
Did I-
the
when did
boob
I-
one?
This is a straw man, right?
I'm
When
asking
did
you.
I ever say every deterministic mechanism will yield truth? I never said that. Did I?
Why is the boob producing calculator
Jim,
wrong?
Jim, did I ever say that? Stop being dishonest.
I
Did
didn't say you said.
So, I guess in a simple way to go with the 2 + 2 thing = 4, how could you know which one is true? You could observe if I have 2 items, I have a cup and a vape, 2 items here, and then I have a rock and a hairbrush, another 2 items over here, and then I count them 1, 2, 3, 4, and I would determine that 2 + 2 does indeed = 4.
Ever say that every deterministic mechanism will yield truth? Did I ever say that?
I didn't say you said that.
Yes, you did, because
No,
this
I
is your
didn't.
argument you used against me, which is ridiculous.
I
The
asked
point
you-
is that there are
can't.
deterministic ways to yield truth that require verification. Of course, they require verification or analytical, right? There's
So why is the-
analytical truths.
I asked
But
you, why is the boob
point
producing
that-
one wrong?
The
You
point
can't
is
tell
that
me.
you cannot show a contradiction. You have failed to do so this entire debate. We've been talking about this for a half hour, and you have not even
Only a
yet
half
pointed
hour?
one single
No, it's been
contradiction
40
in my
minutes.
view.
Okay.
Why is the
I have
boob
this at
producing calculator wrong?
1 point.
Because it wasn't
Two
verified to be
speed.
correct.
Correct meaning what? How
Aligning
is it
with
not
reality.
correct? How is it not?
Aligning with reality?
Okay, how is it not correct if it was created exactly
Because
the
it
way it was
cannot make
determined to
true
be?
If a lie is capable of fooling everyone, the truth can't be determined by majority. The truth is deeper than reality itself. The truth shapes what reality is and how it unfolds. That is true, but that's why, again, I did say our truth is only our subjective understanding of our reality. So, you know, we might say, like, years and years and years ago, maybe we didn't know that we needed air to breathe because we didn't know what air was because we can't see it until we discovered what the molecule oxygen, and that it's all in our universe, and that humans cannot survive without oxygen. So back then, our truth wouldn't have included humans need oxygen to survive. So, yeah, our experience is subjective. I don't think we do know or can determine objective truth. Everything, what we consider truth is our best understanding of reality and how it works through our subjective lens as humans. And we only have certain capabilities to determine these truths, our reality.
Statement, because it cannot make true statements that are analytically true.
Okay, if everything unfolds exactly dependent on law, right? How could the boob producing calculator be wrong if it's the effect of the same laws?
Because it's verifiably incorrect, because we show that it's incorrect based on its lack of pattern recognition.
What? I recognize boobs in the calculator.
Okay.
What are you talking about? There's pattern recognition.
That's not a true statement, right? A true statement is one in which, right, there's this plus this equals this. That's a true statement.
Yeah, I wrote.
No. Right, the point is that 1 + 1 is 2. That's a true statement, right?
Dude,
that could be deterministically that way, right?
I determined.
No, stop. Listen. Do you agree that a calculator can be determined to produce truth?
Yes, and falsities and gibberish.
There you go. You just conceded that deterministic mechanisms can yield truth again.
Not independent of mind.
So so you conceded. Let's move on. Thank you. Let's move on now to my other arguments I prepared for.
Hey, that's so slimy. Not independent of a mind.
What calculator has
and they don't produce. They convey.
Why does a mind?
I don't know why he's going down this calculator computer road. Just talk about humans. Yeah, obviously calculators and computers need to be coded by a mind, by an alive being. Currently, only we know of right now, humans. There might be other life out there that can code computers or something similar, or other truth mechanisms, producing mechanisms. But all we are aware of right now is that you need a human to code a computer which produces truth, which can produce truth, our understanding, our best understanding of reality. So, I don't know why they keep talking about this calculator computer thing. It's so stupid.
Mind matter in this if it's all determined? Why does having a mind...
Congratulations, you just arrived at your own view.
No, you didn't understand the question.
Why does a mind matter if it's determined?
What I'm saying is this. Why does having a mind matter? The point is, having a mind or not matter. The point is...
Why does the truth matter?
Oh my gosh. Can I put it...
Why does the truth matter?
Okay, great. So the point is... No, that's not what I'm saying. The point is...
It is.
Why does having a mind or not matter when we have a deterministic mechanism that yields truth by your own concession?
Why would the truth matter? From your view.
What?
Truth matters
Oh my God.
subjectively for progress reasons, and objectively because it gets us technology and cars and phones and a better quality of life. But that's irrelevant, right? The point is it subjectively matters.
Why would it matter if to disprove Christianity or any other view then, if it's all determined?
Because Christianity actually harms people.
And are you determined to believe that? Or is it true?
Yeah, determined based on my environmental factors.
So is it true because it's determined, or is it determined because it's true?
No, it's verifiably true. It's not true because it's determined. It's true because we can verify it. And yes, that is determined to be the case.
So if I disagree, am I determined to disagree?
Hold on. I can deterministically verify things. Do you agree?
No. Of course not.
Really? So
No.
where's the contradiction? Why is it impossible for me to verify things deterministically?
Because verification requires a mind. Mechanisms don't have minds.
Not a contradiction.
Well, it's an
And
inconsistency.
that's question begging too, right?
Mechanisms
See, I'm
don't
asking
have
you.
You already
why-
admitted it needs a mind.
Hang on. I did listen to the answer, Mike, and if we're going on the formal definition of P and not P being a contradiction, he said that truth requires a mind, mechanisms don't have minds. That would be P and not P. You can disagree with it, but I think he did answer.
Wait, he said truth requires a mind and mechanisms don't have minds? Is he not including humans as mechanisms? Is he saying that we can only get truth from computers? I don't understand this. Maybe I'm confused.
Truth requires a mind, mechanisms don't have minds. That would be P and not P. You can disagree with it, but I think he did answer the
that's
question.
why I said it's question begging, right?
I mean, to be honest, does truth even require a mind? I mean, the truth of reality is going to exist whether there's a mind to observe it or not. It's just that without a mind, there's nothing to comprehend the truth of reality. Unless I'm conflating the definition of truth with something else. But I mean, it's kind of like if a tree falls in the woods. I don't know if that is that. If a tree falls but nobody sees it, did a tree actually fall? Yes, just because nobody observed it doesn't mean that it's not happening, right?
Right. Okay, great. Again, I'm asking you, why can't there be a deterministic factor that yields verifiable truth?
Because truth requires a mind that evaluates.
Let's say, okay.
What else would be evaluating it, dude?
Let's say it has no mind, right?
See, for truth to exist, why does there have to be a mind to evaluate it? If we weren't here, everything would still be here. Do I not know what the definition of truth is? Is that what's confusing me here? The quality or state of being true. Okay, so the definition of truth itself is circular, which is what I think everybody in human history is probably having a problem is. Okay, a fact or belief that is accepted as true. So that is also another definition of truth. So by the second definition, yes, you would need a mind to evaluate something in order to discover truth. But the first definition, the quality or state of being true, you don't need a mind to evaluate whether something exists or not. If a mind doesn't see something as existing, that doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
Why is it impossible for something that has no mind to yield truth, like a calculator or a mechanism like that?
Because a mechanism, like if a calculator was self-building itself with no mind, there would be no reference point to know 2 + 2 = 4 was true or not, or useful or anything. The fact that we have calculators and computers and other machinery shows that we have a mind with intent to engineer around our wants and desires, to reflect truth, to do mathematics. I don't know why you would disagree that these are mind-dependent activities. Are they not?
Yeah, the problem is that minds can be...
Then you agree with the contradiction then.
Move on from the
No, it's not a
calculators,
contradiction
please.
because,
Yes, it
again,
is.
I can grant you that minds are required, but you still haven't shown that
Okay.
under determinism we can't come to verifiable truth. That's the point. That's why I said minds don't matter. I can grant you that minds are required, but I'm asking you, why is it impossible for there to be a deterministic mind that produces truth, if that's better for you?
Okay, so if we agree that a calculator requires a mind, right, to convey truth, right? It requires it. Not only it requires it to code it, but it requires a mind to evaluate whether it's properly doing its coding, right? So we can check and go, well, that says 2 + 2.
There are self-correcting mechanisms within calculators
that are coded by a mind.
Okay, but that mind still
Holy
determined to do
shit!
that. But that mind still determined
That's
to do
begging
that.
the question. Yeah, that's begging the question.
How?
Because you're starting with the assumption that the mind is determined to code a
And
computer to do something.
That's my entire point. I'm asking you to show the contradiction in the deterministic truth.
Okay, so if determinism was...
Yeah, so the mighty filbert, like I said earlier. Okay, so your comment. So according to the second definition, there is no objective truth. Truth is what society agrees to be true. Yeah, and that is true. And that's what I've been trying to say this whole time. our understanding of reality, aka truth, is subjective to us. We can only comprehend and understand what we are capable of comprehending and understanding. Our eyes alone cannot see molecules. We needed to invent microscopes to understand that. And fortunately, we do have the capabilities of inventing these tools to better understand our reality. But there are probably plenty things out there that we are not able to, we are not able to invent the tools to understand. So yes, truth is subjective to our beings and our capabilities to understand reality. But, I mean, we got to do the best we can do. So, to the best of our capabilities, our truth is subjective to us, but it is our tested and verifiable knowledge of reality.
It's true. You wouldn't really need a mind to program a calculator.
Oh my gosh. See, it seems like you're fundamentally not understanding my question. Mind or no mind, I can grant you a mind is required. I'm asking you for the last time.
Great.
Why exactly?
Okay.
Why is it exactly?
You have a choice to follow God. If you don't, that's where you get evil from. So do you think I'm evil? Or do you think evil comes from not following God? Do you think people who follow God can't produce evil? Because I don't think that's true at all. I think there are plenty of people who don't follow God who don't produce evil. I think there are plenty of people who follow God who do produce evil. So I don't think that is a true statement. Agnision? I can't pronounce your name. I apologize.
Exactly impossible for deterministic factors to yield or deterministic minds to produce truth.
Okay.
Why?
Okay. Because, like a calculator, without mind, a human being is just a machine like a calculator.
That was loud.
That's not a contradiction.
What's not a contradiction?
The thing you just uttered. You're just question begging. Again, I'm asking for the P and not P. Why is deterministic truth impossible?
Because
which,
truth isn't about.
By the way, you already freaking conceded, which is, now you're being dishonest.
You said remove the mind, right?
Have a mind, remove the mind. It doesn't matter.
Okay, so what is truth?
It's irrelevant to my question.
Is truth a concept or not?
Yes, truth is conceptual.
So if you remove all the minds, okay.
I like how you're deflecting. I like how you're deflecting.
What? No. You just said if we remove them.
They have been talking about this same question for 45 minutes now. And I really hope that Mike starts to interrogate Jimbob's Christianity instead of just trying to break down the atheist worldview. Let's try to break down the Christian worldview.
Mind, and it's just mechanisms, determined mechanisms. What's the problem here, right? Why can't it produce truth, right? That's the question.
Yeah.
Truth is itself a mind-dependent concept. That's why.
Oh man, it's just like talking to a wall kind of.
Oh wow, cool way of not answering anything. Is truth a mind-dependent concept? Yes or no? Don't get squirmy. Is truth a mind-dependent concept? Yes or no?
I just grant.
Evil is inherently a religious concept. I do agree with that. But I do think, just even from an atheistic view, we have an understanding of what evil is, but it's more of a culture thing. So, we have like a culture view of evil, which is pretty much just harm and badness, right? But yeah, the actual like true term evil is like a religious view. But I think culturally we have accepted that like evil exists. It's not like Satan. We don't believe it's like Satan controlling these things. We would just consider evil people choosing to do harmful things to people intentionally.
You that minds are required for truth. I'm asking you, why can't there be deterministic minds that yield truth?
Because
do you understand the question?
Yeah.
Do you understand it? No, honestly, do you understand the question I just asked you?
Yes. This is the problem.
What did I ask you?
Sorry, last pause for a second. Sorry, I do like engaging with the chat. They can find or discover truth because the truth never changes. maybe he meant to say can't find. They can't find or discover truth because the truth never changes. That is true, but again, that's what I'm saying. When we say truth, it is our best understanding to our capability of our reality, which is subjective to us and our capabilities as humans. So there is an objective truth out there, but we are only able to understand it to our human capabilities, right? So it is the best way of understanding our reality to the best of our ability. We're not all knowing beings, of course, right?
You said, could there be deterministic minds that produce truth?
Great. Answer. Where's the
Cool.
contradiction in a deterministic mind? Go.
The contradiction is that a mind itself would defy determinism.
Why?
Definitionally.
Your question begging.
Because an evaluation, right? Again, you have the same problem. If you define a mind as just this determined path, right? That's caused by previous dominoes, right? If you assume that, right? There is no independent view evaluating truth. There's just machines.
You're not giving a contradiction. You're just uttering garbage. Okay, how about this then? You want to deflect the question? How about this? Can God choose to know things?
No. Choose to know
So
things?
then,
No.
So then he's determined to know things.
No. This is just nonsensical.
Oh my, bro.
No,
If you don't
dude,
even understand this,
dude,
this is embarrassing at this point.
No,
bro.
this is terrible.
You conceded multiple times.
This
I
is
pointed
like-
out flaws in your
no,
argument multiple times.
no,
You have defended
no,
every question I
no,
asked
no.
you.
No,
Are you
if
even-
God,
are you
if
even
God,
debating in this right
no,
now? Are you
you're
even
not-
debating right now?
No, you're
Okay,
just-
hang on. Hold on. So, Mike,
inventing your own concept of God.
hang on, Mike. Restate your question and give Jimbob a chance to answer it.
Okay.
If you know,
Can God freely choose the truth?
The truth himself?
Can God freely choose
Cool
truth?
fucking proposition. Can God choose himself
Okay, can God
from
choose
your worldview?
Can God choose truth statements?
What do you mean choose? He doesn't evaluate new input, if that's what you mean. He's not a human
Okay, great.
being
So-
brain,
then,
right?
So then God doesn't choose the truth, which means he's determined to have it, correct?
No. Determined means subject to previous cause, right? Under your view?
Okay.
Yeah, so that's not God. God's non-dependent,
Or
eternal.
subject to subject to other causes, sure.
No, non-dependent.
Yeah, but the point is that God had to
No
have.
points.
Your point is that God had to have had the truth. He
Had
can't
the truth.
choose otherwise.
Dude, I'm going to do this again. If, from my view, God is the truth, that truth is a being under my view, not a description of things, then
Okay.
your whole hypothetical is stupid.
No, it's not stupid.
Yes,
right?
it is. It's not
You're
an internal
answering the
critique.
question.
Because
Is
it's not an
God
internal
is-
critique, dude.
Look. It's either God is determined to know the truth, or God
Says
randomly
who? Says who?
says.
Says-
Truth does change. What is accepted as true today may not be accepted as true tomorrow. Example, people used to believe the sun orbited the earth. Now we know better. Yeah, I mean, I think what I would say, and what probably a lot of people would say, is that the truth didn't change. Our understanding of the truth changed. So it's not that it's true that the sun did used to orbit the earth, and now it doesn't. It's just that we now understand the truth. We now have a better understanding of reality, and we have determined through that knowledge that it is true that the sun does not orbit the earth. Earth orbits the sun.
Does
Logic.
your bullshit
Logic.
view? Oh, where'd you get logic from?
My brain.
Oh, your brain? How come it's
Me
different than
too,
my
by
logic?
the way.
How come it's different?
You know what comparative analysis is?
Oh, that determined thing that happens when machines collide
Yeah.
with matter? That thing?
Yeah, that's,
okay.
that's called determinism, and you have yet to point
Uh-huh.
out a contradiction there. But more
Oh, yeah, I
importantly,
did. Sure, I did.
what's the contradiction?
The,
Yeah,
the
you're not
contradiction
gonna-
is the contradiction is exactly what Zen
Okay.
actually summarized.
How about this?
And you
How about
agreed
this?
to it.
Can I freely choose to know what happens inside of a black hole?
I don't. What's a black hole?
Jimbob doesn't believe in black holes. See, he doesn't believe in a lot of these scientific discoveries. He doesn't believe dinosaurs existed. I don't know what he believes about the universe. I'm pretty sure black holes have been, and I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure at this point black holes have been observed and verified. And again, our understanding of what they actually are will change over time with more knowledge. But I'm pretty sure that the existence of black holes has been verified. I could be wrong.
Wow, you don't know what a black hole is?
Do you have access to a black hole?
Yeah, I'm asking you.
No, you don't. A hypothetical.
And this argument doesn't work. This argument works against Jimbob as well. Do you have access to a black hole? Well, do you have access to God? Have you seen God? I haven't seen a black hole. So by your logic, you're saying that therefore I can't say whether it actually exists or not, but you haven't seen God either. So this argument does not work for Jimbob.
That no one has access to.
Yes, we do. We have
Congratulations,
observed.
everyone.
Jim, we have observed black holes, by the way.
Do you have access to a black hole?
Do you have
Yes,
access
we've
to
observed.
God?
Do you? Not we. Who's this we shit? Have you?
Yeah, that's why I'm
The answer's
asking you,
no.
Can we freely choose to know what happens inside of a black hole?
No.
I just reject the premise.
Of course we can't.
Choose
Why?
another example.
Why?
Because I have no reason you could have any knowledge of what you call a black hole. Okay, use another example.
There would have to be a series of causes and effects that would lead me to that knowledge, correct?
Yes.
Cause and effect to lead you to knowledge?
Yeah, I would have to
Yes.
go use a telescope, do all those causes
dude.
and effects. There's deterministic cause and
Knowledge.
effect to
Knowledge
yield
in
that
your
truth, right?
Yes.
knowledge in
Yeah, if you never see a black hole, or you've never been given information about what a black hole is, you can't freely choose. You don't have the free will to choose that you understand what a black hole is. It is determined based on information availability.
in your world is an effect.
No.
What is
Well,
it then?
It's
Yeah, it
okay.
is.
It's
Yeah.
the emergence of a cause, sure.
Oh, it's
But the
epiphenomenal, right?
But
Is it
yeah,
epiphenomenal? Okay.
it's still deterministic, right? The point you're missing is
Okay.
this. I can't freely choose to know something. I am only determined to know it based on the series of causes and effects that lead me to that truth. That's the point.
No, you're conflating constrained to be able to know, right? There can be constraints to know certain truths, but your will to know those truths
So
might
I
be
can't-
constrained.
So do you concede that I cannot
They're not
freely,
determined.
So do you agree that I cannot freely choose to know what happens inside of a black hole?
I don't know that that's true.
So you're just going to say, I don't know.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I don't
And
know
your
that that's
position-
true.
And your position is that
That's
and that it's impossible.
No, I didn't say it's impossible on your hypothetical. I said that you couldn't know what's going
my
on in
gosh.
a black hole.
How dishonest
Right
can you
now.
be? Okay.
You agreed to it, yet you don't know what's happening in a black hole, dude. So
Yeah,
you agree with me.
Because I'm only determined to
This
know what
is
happens
Thumper,
based on
the
series of
rabbit
cause and
that I
effect,
share a
which
room
you
with.
neglect. I'm asking you.
All right.
All right, I'll do this one more time.
Are
Can
you
I
determined to be an atheist? Yes or no? 'Cause I mean, it's pretty simple.
Sorry,
Yeah, 'cause I was
ADHD.
convinced by evidence.
Okay. So, no. Forget
Okay.
it.
Yeah,
Forget
I was
evidence.
determined because I have evidence presented to me. Okay. Now
You only
stop
believe in things with
deflecting.
evidence? Do you
Stop
only believe in
deflecting.
things with evidence?
Stop
Yes or
deflecting.
no? Do you only believe things with evidence?
No, there's different types of truth. There's analytical truths and synthetic truths.
Okay. What do you believe in that you lack evidence for?
What happens inside? No, nothing.
Evolution?
There's nothing I believe in that lacks evidence.
Oh, really? Do you
Or
believe
it-
knowledge exists?
Yeah.
I don't know. There
Where's the
is
physical
evidence
evidence
for
for
evolution, though, right? So I don't know if that's true.
Did I ever say that you can only get to truth by physics? I never said that. So stop.
What's
strawmanning
evidence?
me.
What's evidence?
Now,
mean?
Bible thumper.
Later facts that point to a specific conclusion.
That's a
Now,
good
when it comes to
one.
knowledge, the way I know things is by merely
I
describing.
need to
that which
Photoshop a
I
little
see or observe.
Bible.
Or
How do you know you're accurately describing?
When it comes to analytics, we can take a look at axioms and things like that. Can do comparative analysis in terms of logic.
Are you determined to do those things?
But the question yeah, of course.
Okay, so you're
that's
determined to describe things in a certain way, right?
Correct.
And so, because
we
you're
can still
determined,
break-
no,
and
hold
we
on,
can
I'm
still
still
preach
talking. Okay. You're determined to describe things in a certain way, and you call that truth, right?
Yeah. Why isn't it true?
Wait. Do you call whatever you describe as true,
Why is it
or
not, why is it not true?
well, if it's inconsistent with the way someone else describes it, then aren't you in a bind there?
No, because guess what? There's something called comparative analysis. There's something called verification.
That means what you're describing isn't true then yet, by
Yeah.
simply describing it.
Our descriptions of reality can be inaccurate, and that's why verification is needed.
Okay, so verification, is it not just more determined descriptions of reality?
Yeah, which also can be true
Okay, so how do you know that's true or not?
by verifying those things.
Okay, so how far along do you go keep verifying with predetermined verification that's caused
What
by
do you mean?
natural
We don't have
effects?
to-
By
What do you
natural
mean?
causes.
Truth, when it comes to
Done.
empirics,
Done.
done.
You're done.
Do you think that there's
You
absolute
done.
truth? No. Do you think there's absolute truths in empirics?
No, because
Exactly.
empiricism-
That's the point. There is no absolute truth to empirics.
Is that true?
Yes, analytically speaking.
Okay. So the
Okay,
problem
great.
here is,
So, no, there's no
I know you want to
problem
get, you don't want to get away here. You said, I know truth by describing, and I said, how do you know it's true? And you said, well, I compare it with someone else describing. I said, are they determined to
No, I
describe
don't
it? And you
compare-
said,
no, I
hold
don't
on,
compare with-
hold on,
no,
don't
no, no.
interrupt me.
That's a
Hold on a
straw man.
second. Hold on a
Straw
second. You exactly said this. You said, I described this, and I said, how do you know this is true? And then, well, I described it. There's a way of describing it. And you said comparative analysis. And I said, the other person is now describing reality too. So you're comparing your descriptions, right? But they're also determined to describe reality a certain way.
Yeah, and if
then I
they're-
said,
and if
and then
they're
I,
the
hold
statements
on,
are
dude.
accurate-
Hold
Yes, they're determined to describe reality a certain way because, again, we only have certain capabilities as humans. So when I see, when I see a tree, the tree leaves blowing in the wind, I don't know. I can't think of an example. If I see a tree and I can say, oh, this is made of wood, because throughout my childhood, I've been taught what the word wood means. Wood is a descriptor, right? So I can say a tree is made of wood, and I'm only capable of describing like the tree bark from what I see. I'm not capable of seeing the inner molecules, right? So like I can only describe something to my capability, which is determined through our human capabilities and my vocabulary and knowledge, I guess, right?
on. And then I said, how do you know that person you're referring to is accurately describing it? And I demonstrated, just as I intend to do tonight, that you're just going to keep moving the descriptions over to other people who are determined to describe things a certain way based on previous laws.
No, because our descriptions
Endless.
stop. No, because our descriptions
When do they stop?
Hang on, let him answer. Let him answer. Bob.
When something is more accurate than another.
Oh my gosh. And how would you know that? Let me guess.
There you go.
Appealing to another description?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, keep going. Yeah, great. Great
And why-
epistemology, dude.
And why is it necessary that we have to come to absolutes with empirics?
I didn't never said that. Talk about straw man.
Great. So then there's nothing wrong with having empirical knowledge.
Oh my god, Mike really needs to start interrogating Jimbob and asking him how he knows, how he comes to truth. Instead of just keep taking this interrogation of his worldview, he needs to start asking Jimbob, okay, so I've told you how I determine truth through verifiability, observation, testing. How do you verify truth? Because in our worldview, me and Mike's worldview, it's through the same way that we do it. But he clearly doesn't believe that. So please start asking Jimbob to how he verifies his truth. Is it through the Bible? Is it through a spiritual relationship with God and Jesus? What I don't think he has a good way of explaining this, which is why I feel like Christians love to control these debate conversations so that they are the interrogators and they just interrogate the atheist view.
Knowledge that goes on forever.
I'm saying you don't even have
Wait.
partial knowledge.
Jim Bob, is there something impossible about having knowledge that goes on forever empirically?
If everything's determined, you're just operating inside a machine.
Yeah, that's not what I
So,
asked you,
no,
sir. That's
machines
not what
don't
I
produce
asked you.
knowledge.
That's not what I asked you.
There's
I
no,
asked you,
dude.
I asked you, what's the problem in there being infinite knowledge empirically?
Because there is no knowledge from just empiricism.
Yes, there is. It's called
No, there
description.
isn't.
It's called
No.
description.
Do you need to assume philosophy and a whole set of other immaterials to do empiricism? Yes or no?
No, we just observe.
So you
Empiricism is
observe.
no
Oh,
knowledge.
let me get this straight. You observe the external world.
Oh,
We
I
observe
do
and then we
enjoy
do
my
logic to
evil
describe
very
it.
much. Thank you.
Okay. Is the external world an immaterial conceptual description of reality?
No, nothing's immaterial. That's nonsense.
Nothing's immaterial. I asked you if you can
No.
hold knowledge. You said no.
I said yes in your neurons.
Can you hold truth?
In your neurons, yes.
Okay. Can you hold meaning?
In your neurons, yes.
Okay. Is the word apple material?
In your neurons, yes.
Where? Where is the word apple in my neurons?
Probably the prefrontal cortex. Or the
Oh,
hippocampus.
where? Probably. Where? We're so excited to know.
Oh, I like how you just completely
Where's
dismiss
Apple?
the fact that logic comes from the brain, and we have lots of studies and evidence about this. We know that
comes from
logic
it?
is Yeah,
Wait,
we
it comes
actually know
from
that the prefrontal cortex is what generates logic and language. Do you know
It
that?
generates it how?
By
Sorry,
Physically?
I have
a
it.
neural circuit.
So logic is physical?
Oh, but good news. Yesterday was my 2-year anniversary of getting clean. So there's that. Yay. Congratulations, me.
Yes.
What's it
logic is-
made of?
Or no, I'm sorry. It was 2 days ago. It was the 13th. August 13th.
What's the law of identity made of, Mike?
So when you say the law of identity, you're just referring
Oh, well,
to your
it's
thought
past
process,
12
which is
now,
made up
so-
of neural chemistry, electrochemistry.
What are the 3 laws of logic?
Excluding middle, non-contradiction, and identity.
And can you tell me what physical properties they're made of, Mike?
Electrochemistry in the brain.
What's that made of?
Electrons.
So the laws of logic are made up. They compose of electrons. Is that correct?
Logic is a physical phenomenon. Yes, it happens in the brain.
So can we look at the laws of logic under a microscope?
Yeah. So now you refer. No, what we can observe.
Oh,
when you
oh,
no,
shit.
listen.
I guess we're in a
Thank you.
problem now.
You, see, you just yap. That's why you're
Uh-huh.
doing nonsense.
Yeah,
So listen.
yeah. Okay.
When you say, "Can you observe logic in the brain?" Yes.
You said it's physical.
We can, yes, we can observe it in the brain.
You
That's-
said the laws of thought
Hold
are
on,
made of
let-
molecules.
let-
Hang on, Jimbob. Let him finish. Go ahead, Mike. Go ahead.
I know you're so anxious. Okay, so when you say, "Can you observe logic?" Yes, we can in the brain, and we can observe it through looking at the neural circuitry in the brain, looking at electrochemical impulses that move throughout the brain. And when you go, "Oh, where's the law of identity?" Well, that's a specific neural circuitry, right? And then every single thought you have is the product of certain neural circuits in your brain. So yes, we could, if we wanted to, look at where you think these things are in the brain, and that's possible. It's possible. Now, the funny thing here is you have yet to show a contradiction in my view. You have yet to show or demonstrate that God exists or Christianity is true. I had a 7-minute opening where I dismantled almost everything you believe in, and you have yet to show us anything, any refutations for those things.
Well,
So
because one reason why is because according to your own view, I was just determined to believe in theism, and you were determined not to.
Why is that impossible?
Well, forget going back into that wormhole. The reality is you don't have a.
Now you want to deflect.
You're gonna let me answer.
Good.
You're gonna let me answer. If it's determined, then I'm just actually following, according to you, logical laws, dude. I'm actually being logical
Yeah,
by
that's the
following.
point. Logic
Don't
is
interrupt me.
Hang on. Let him finish, Mike. Go ahead, Jimbob.
If I'm determined to be a theist, according to you, I'm actually consistent with the laws of nature, which your entire epistemology is based on, dude.
Nope, incorrect. So you're not consistent because I can point out fallacies. And when you say, "Well, I'm determined to be a Christian, therefore I'm,"
I don't think what Jimbob said was untrue there. He said, according to Mike's worldview, he is determined to be a Christian based on his environmental upbringing and his personal philosophy, his experiences throughout his life. These factors have determined him to be Christian. I think that is true.
I'm right. No, you're wrong because there are other influences that you're neglecting that can also influence your beliefs and logic. That's the point. So yes, I'm determined to be an atheist, but there are a series of influences that influence that decision, and so can you. So again, this is a straw man and a non sequitur. Now,
What's the straw man?
again,
You agreed that our views, all of them, are wholly determined by physical laws.
yes, which can be verified. to
Okay.
be true.
Oh, wait. No, verification would also be determined by physical laws. So
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with a deterministic world
Okay.
where truth is verified to be true.
Okay, so again, if my view is determined by physical laws, I'm actually being lawful right now.
No, you're not, because I can point out fallacies and influence your logic. That's the point.
Why would fallacies matter if I'm
See,
determined to believe?
another straw
Yeah, and to be fair, Jerry, that can happen a lot in these debates, especially when there's a lot of talking over each other and fighting for speaking time. It's very easy to mess up. I go back and review my debates, and sometimes I'm like, I'm fighting against something that I then realize wasn't what the person actually said. So it can easily happen in debates like this.
straw man, right? What you're
I
saying.
asked you why. Why would a fallacy matter, dude?
Because it's a fallacy and it's incorrect logic.
If I'm determined to be inconsistent in logic, how could I be wrong if your entire epistemology is governed by natural laws?
Why would it be the case that you can't be wrong? That's the question of the day, right?
Why would it matter?
This is a straw man because you're saying that I can only, because I'm determined, that means I'm true or correct. No, that's a straw man. I never said that. I never said that because you're determined, that means you keep making this fallacy. So again, show me the contradiction in a universe that's determined to yield verified truth.
I'm saying from your view, there is no
Jimbob,
contradiction.
if you don't answer this, there's no point in debating you. This is embarrassing.
Oh, shut up. Listen to me.
Give the contradiction.
According to your view.
Give the contradiction.
Okay, Mike, you gotta let him answer. You gotta let him answer, Mike. You gotta let him answer. Go ahead.
According to your view, if I'm determined to live out a belief that's completely caused by previous material matter in motion, if I was inconsistent or contradictory, it wouldn't matter because it's just the epiphenomenal effect of dominoes in a row. That's all it is.
Okay, Mike, hang on. Before you respond, because Mike, I understand you're probably not satisfied with the answer. You're asking Jimbob to provide, P and not P on the deterministic view.
Right.
Jimbob, essentially, if I'm understanding it right, is saying that contradictions don't matter. So he's saying no, there isn't a contradiction because contradictions are not possible in a deterministic worldview. If I'm understanding it properly, that's his
absolutely
answer. So
absolutely correct. They're not only impossible, but even if you said somehow they were, right? It wouldn't matter. Why? Because I would just be another determined mechanism to ignore contradictions in my view. I would be determined to do it.
Then you'd still be wrong, right? Because you
would be determined to think that.
Hang on, Jimbob. Let him respond. Let Mike respond here.
Yeah, you're not addressing the question. You're not really engaging. I asked you, why is it impossible that under deterministic minds we can't come to verifiable truth? And all you're saying is, well, it's a mechanism, and mechanisms can't be true. That's
I answered this already.
I'm asking you for a contradiction. All you're saying is impossible. And I keep asking you why, and you can never show it.
The contradiction is that a mind. You're saying, why can't a mind be determined? I'm saying you couldn't tell me what a mind was under determinism. That's a contradiction.
That's question begging.
Then tell me.
He just did tell you what a mind was under determinism, under his deterministic beliefs, though.
What a mind is.
A product of the brain.
Oh, more like the logic, like there's a little section in the brain called the mind.
Yeah, it's called the prefrontal cortex, the limbic system.
So the prefrontal cortex is the mind, right?
It is what produces the mind. The mind is just the electrochemical process of the brain.
Okay.
Now, how about
if you change if you change the laws of the electrochemical in all the routing system, and it behaved exactly how you coded it to, but it resulted in untrue descriptive propositions about the world, how could it be wrong?
Because it wasn't verified to be true.
By, let's say, other minds. Let's say all the other minds.
Or there's a fallacy there. There's a fallacy.
No, it's a logical possibility. You're not listening to the logical hypothetical.
I know it's a possibility.
You don't want to.
I know it's a possibility, of course. Yeah. I never said it. You're making a straw man here.
What's the logical?
Hold on, let me go back a second. What did Jimbob just say?
By, let's say, other minds. Let's say all the other minds.
Or there's a fallacy there. There's a fallacy.
No, it's a logical possibility. You're not listening to the logical hypothetical.
I know it's a possibility. Now, how about
if you change the laws of the electrochemical in all the routing system, and it behaved exactly how you coded it to, but it resulted in untrue descriptive propositions about the world, how could it be wrong?
Because it wasn't verified to be true.
Okay.
By, let's say, other minds. Let's say all the other minds.
Or there's a fallacy there. There's a fallacy.
No, it's a logical possibility. You're not listening to the logical hypothetical.
I know it's a possibility.
You don't want to.
I know it's a possibility, of course. Yeah. I never said it. You're making a straw man here.
What's the logical?
You're saying that what if the calculator malfunctions? Would it be wrong? Yeah, no shit. And if a mind malfunctioned, it would be wrong too. We'd be fallacious.
So here's my answer.
The point about logic is to do comparative analysis and verification.
Here's my question.
Now, you have yet to show the contradiction.
I'll show you a problem. Yeah, I'll show you a problem right now.
Where's the contradiction in a deterministic universe?
The contradiction is this. If you're saying the mind gives us access, whether it's determined or not, to truth values, but the mind itself...
You're not going to answer.
Listen to me, dude. You're not listening.
I did the whole freaking time.
Dude, listen to me.
Okay, hang on. Hold on. So just to keep this on track and the flow here before it goes off the rails, Mike, I think it's fair to represent Jimbob in saying essentially, no, there isn't a contradiction on the deterministic view, but it's also wrong for some other reason that Jimbob is positing here. I believe that's a summed
there's
up.
A problem. Big problem.
So go ahead.
So then,
you're gonna let me.
So then you agree that there's no contradiction in my view?
No, I said that there was, that you can't actually justify what a mind is. You don't know where the mind is. You're just saying, some shit happens in the brain and that's the mind. Listen, if the mind...
Some shit happens in the brain and that's the mind. I mean, honestly, that is what it is. Why is that not a valid answer? His claim here is that these concepts are created in the brain and can be physically observed. That means they don't exist without a brain unless he can account for it somehow. Yeah, the mind doesn't exist without a brain. All minds could be deceived, and that wouldn't actually change the nature of truth. Only what we understand the truth to be. I think that's what Jimbob is trying to say. He's trying to say that if we were coded to basically not be able to observe actual truth, how would we know what truth actually is? Just like if we code a computer to produce all false statements, then how would they know they were false or something like that? Fuck the computer argument. But yeah, how do we know what we are observing is truth? And Mike's argument is that we are verifying it. I think, again, what I've said like 10 times already, what they're not getting at is that our truth, what is truth to us, is again only subjective to our capabilities as humans and our capable comprehension of our reality. So, no, can we absolutely know objective truth? No. Our understanding of reality is subjective to our capable comprehensions. So I think this is like the part they're like not talking at, and they're getting stuck on this. It's been over an hour now, so hopefully Mike starts asking Jimbob how he can determine what truth is in his worldview.
Mind itself can be rerouted, right? Because you said the laws of logic are in the mind and they're just little chemical highways. So what I'm asking you is, if what governs truth for you is that working properly and effectively describing the external world, but in your view, you can reroute all of humanity to falsely describe reality? That means the truth, that means the truth itself is dependent on just the routing system of neurons.
The truth is dependent on minds, yes.
That means that truth could change if you rerouted it.
Truth is what describes reality. And if it doesn't describe reality, if the system is malfunctioned to the degree in which it cannot even describe reality, it cannot come to truth, right? That's what truth is. It's what describes reality. And if there's a neurocircuitry that is malfunctioning or rewired in such a way, it will never produce truth.
Listen,
so again, the point
you're not understanding this entailment. This is big for you, okay? That's why you're like, la, 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 la. Listen, if it's essentially like saying this, if all the calculators we knew of, right? You woke up one day, you didn't know what a calculator was, and all of the calculators were programmed to produce things we would previously know as incorrect answers. I'm saying apply that hypothetical to a brain. The brain, if truth, according to you, is determined by lawfulness of chemicals and structures in the brain, right? That then describe external reality. I'm saying hypothetically, that's logically possible under your own view. That you can just reprogram all minds, all brains to falsely describe reality, and it couldn't be wrong if all minds falsely described reality.
No, that's incorrect, because there would still be fallacious.
Who's this leftover mind?
I mean, that kind of is correct. If all of our minds are producing a false reality, if all of us are observing a reality that isn't truth, like again, we couldn't see air, we couldn't see like oxygen molecules however long ago. So we didn't understand that humans needed oxygen to breathe. We knew we could suffocate, but we didn't understand we needed oxygen to breathe. So we were all living in a false truth because we could only verify what we could physically observe, right? So if we are seeing things, if we are observing a reality that isn't actually accurate, objectively, and all of us do that, then Jimbob is right. Technically, we wouldn't know the full truth of reality, right? So all we can do is understand, is observe and verify our best understanding of it through our subjective perspective.
And who's accurately describing it?
Which is
You're not
fine.
hearing me.
Like,
You're
I
not
mean,
hearing me.
we're only human, and sometimes I feel like atheists have a hard time admitting things like this. But that's just the truth of the matter right now. So I'm fine with admitting that our truth might be skewed objectively. Like, we might not know objective truth, and I don't think we do know objective truth. It's just our best comprehension of it. But I would love to see, again, Mike ask how Jimbob verifies his truths, his reality. Can we please get to that part of the conversation?
I am. You're saying that if we rewire the entire humanity, their brains, in such a way that we would all render false statements, yes, they would all be false. So what?
No, you wouldn't know they were false.
There'd be false
No,
statements.
dude.
There'd be malfunctioning circuitry.
Holy shit.
Okay.
Hold on. Let's do this again. If all minds
my
were rewired this
God.
way, you wouldn't have another mind saying it was false. Do you understand?
You don't need another mind to know.
So who's this independent viewer if all minds are programmed to produce false?
There is no
falsities? Who's
independent
this? Who's
viewer.
this special being?
There is no independent being. It's just yourself.
So
right?
how do you know any of it?
You're
You
false
do
to
need
a
other
certain
minds to
reality.
verify
You're
truth.
included.
Reality.
Are you just seriously this dense? I'll say it again.
What are you talking about? You
If-
have deflected everything I fucking asked you to.
I think Mike is getting a little bit, not lost, but he doesn't want to concede to Jimbob because he doesn't agree with Jimbob's worldview. But, so he's like not trying to concede, but again, I think they're just missing what I just previously talked about. They're like missing the whole point, and they're really stuck on this.
If all minds are rewired to falsely describe reality, that means you, Mike, you don't have access to the true reality because everyone's being reprogrammed to falsely, right, represent reality and describe it.
And
You have to
what's
say
the problem?
that's the new truth.
No. Why would I
Yeah,
say
you
that?
do.
Why would I
Because
say that something's false is true? That's nonsense.
You were programmed based on
Well,
materialism.
because you don't
that's a
know any
straw
other
man.
way.
I never said because we are determined that means we know what truth is automatically. You keep straw manning
It's an
me,
entailment.
and you don't even see it.
Are you a truth-
Okay, listen.
You're a
I
truth-seeking
never
machine?
said. I never
Mike,
said.
you truth-seeking machine?
Listen, I never said in this entire debate that because the sheer fact that we're determined, it must be the case that we yield truth. I never said that. And your entire argument strawman that. Now, I would love to ask you this, Jimbob. How do you know that your logic is working correctly?
There we go.
I don't know my logic's working correctly.
So you
But
could be wrong about
for-
everything you just told me today.
No, from my view, I have a reason to believe logic exists as an
Why?
absolute lawfulness. Why? Because using
There we
logic,
go.
like I don't have to question logic itself, but I can question my use of logic. Does that make sense?
No.
Would you
I
agree?
asked
Would you agree?
How do you know that logic is correct?
Logic, because to challenge logic would be to appeal to it. So we can't question logic because
How
that
do you know
assumes
that,
logic.
okay, let me ask you again. How do you know that logical statements are true or false?
Logical statements? Well, no, you can make a logical statement and have it be valid and it all be untrue. So
How do you know?
Well, it can
so
be
that's not
valid, but
true.
unsound.
That's not an assumption I would
Okay.
make. Yeah.
So great.
Something can be
So why-
logical and
so,
not true.
Look, the
How
point
do you
here is
know?
why do you need God? If I can, from my worldview, ground logic in brains and ground truth in brains and ground morality in
Can't.
brains, why do I need God? And if you can't
Because
show the contradiction
first-
there, your presup apologetics nonsense is
First of all-
garbage. It's done.
First of all,
right? You have to point out a contradiction, or you have no
First of
fucking
all,
argument.
First of all, you can't ground truth in brains because I just
Why not?
demonstrated.
Please don't go back to this. Answer the question. How do you ground your truth? Please answer that. We were getting there. We were on our way. We were moving in a good direction. Please don't go backwards.
You could rewire all the brains to produce false propositions. and you don't have any access to whether they're false or not if you reprogram
Again,
them that way.
I have to explain this again to you. Holy moly,
No,
sir.
just
This is
move
embarrassing.
on.
I agree that if you rewire the brain, you would render false statements, of course. But the
You would
point
know they're
is that
false.
we happen to have brains that produce true statements. We happen to have functioning brains, okay?
We
So
were
can
so
produce true statements.
close.
Again, for the last time, how do you know that God grounds logic?
Yes.
Well, logic is immaterial and conceptual, first of all.
Prove
It's
it.
not physical,
Prove
like you
it,
said.
prove it,
Okay.
prove
No,
it.
no, proving.
Wait, okay, that didn't answer the question. Mike should be like, okay, so you're saying logic isn't conceivable or whatever he said. How do you know that? How do you ground your logic? Okay, you can't see it. It's not physical. How do you ground it? How do you know what truth is, Jimbob?
The opposite would be required, and you tried to, right? And we all have it, right?
I mean, do you want to study?
the laws of logic are little neurons, and you can take them out, and this kind of nonsense.
Okay, so what do you think
Look,
it
look,
is?
The point is, I can still ground logic and truth in my system under
No,
an
you
actual
can't.
system.
Yes.
No, you can't.
Then if you keep saying you can't, you can't.
Can we
But
change
you-
it? If the okay,
No,
simple.
no,
Mike,
stop,
Mike,
listen.
I'll
No.
destroy you right now, dude. Watch. If
Try.
the laws of thought are physical, can you change physical things?
Yeah.
Boom, you're done. You don't have a basis for logic.
What?
You can just change the laws.
No,
You
that's
can
not
change the
nonsense.
laws.
The laws are not exactly tied to a specific, to just physical stuff. They're
Oh, I
tied
thought
to
they were.
specific configurations, right?
Mhm.
If
Now
a
it's-
configurable-
I don't understand what he just meant. Like, we can shut off a person's brain, we can put them into a coma, and then their mind doesn't work. Maybe that's not what he. Maybe I misunderstood what he said.
Hold on.
Now it's a
Jim
configuration.
Bob, listen. You're so embarrassing. There. So, when it comes to logic, there are certain neural firings that have to occur to produce logical axioms.
True
That's the point here.
firings, right?
So yes, you can change physical brain chemistry, sure. But the point is that if you do it to such a degree, it will render false statements. That's the point. So
Yeah.
they have to be configured in such a way that yield the truth that we observe today. That's why your argument fails. Now, again, can you answer my question? How does God ground logic?
Well, for one, logic is a true thought, right? Descriptions of thoughts, a law of thought. It's immaterial. We can't materialize it no matter how much you talk. It's not going to materialize as a thing, right? It's not made of things.
But it does. But I'll grant
No,
you that
it doesn't. You can't tell, dude. No one would have fucking agree with you. There's no one who produced the laws of thought on a platter, dude. Get out of
Well,
here.
again, we actually have done studies on logic. And
Oh, we
know that it
studied
comes from
it.
the brain.
Yeah. Okay. Great. My studies.
Yeah.
Great work.
No. Oh,
Okay.
so you're going to reject science?
So
You're
here's
gonna
the
reject
thing.
science.
Here's
Wait,
the thing.
are you going to reject
Yeah.
science?
Yeah, science is wrong. That's the fundamental usefulness of science. Is that it's wrong.
Wow, you're going to reject the entire endeavor of science.
Where did the entire endeavor of science say that we can materialize logic on a platter?
It says that we can demonstrate logic comes from the brain, and I have multiple studies on this.
If you say the brain
It's
is
a common-
required,
I'm live. This debate is not live. This debate happened like a year ago.
In fact, in neuroscience, this is
comes.
embarrassing.
What do you mean? What do you mean
No
comes
wonder
from?
you still believe in precept.
What do you mean comes from?
It's produced by the
Where?
brain.
Where? Tell me where the brain produces the laws, the three classical laws of logic again, please. I'm sure the chat is just really excited to
So,
hear this.
so it's much more nuanced than just black and white. You're committing a black and white fallacy by saying it has to come from one specific part. No, of course.
Yeah, give
the
yourself some
brain-
time. Give yourself some time.
I don't need that much time, sir. I'm
Yeah,
already
you do.
doing it. So, logic is a complex, nuanced process that happens in many circuitry of the brain. We have the prefrontal cortex, the limbic system, the frontal lobe. All these parts of the brain generate certain neural firings and circuitry that yield the logic and the true statements that we make in today's world. That is completely logically valid and sound, and supports my view.
That's great. Can you change them?
Your view says that there's a magic being who murdered people in a flood, and he's the one who grounds logic. You have yet to demonstrate that. You have yet to show why that's necessary, and you have yet to show a contradiction in my view.
Great.
You
Yeah,
have failed
I
at
can.
everything- You have
I'll show
failed at
another.
everything today. You have failed at everything I threw at you.
You should write for Huffington Post. You're good at headlines, but not really good at actually arguing. So listen to me. If the laws of logic are emergent of
Not an
physical
argument.
brain, can we change those physical things if they're
We
physical?
can change brain states, but they would yield
Can
false
we
states.
change the laws of logic if they're physical?
The laws of logic are just certain configurations of neural circuitry.
Can we change the configuration such that the laws of logic no longer hold?
That doesn't make sense, right? That's
Yeah.
circular. What
Oh,
we're saying
I
is
don't
What?
understand
you can change
that
neural
either.
circuitry in a way that would yield false logic. Yes.
Okay. That means logic, knowing that it's false, it has to exist outside of the brain.
No, logic itself is a specific configuration of neurochemistry.
Okay, so if you change the specific neurochemistry in a brain, right?
Is Jimbob trying to say that logic is a material thing. I don't know what he's getting at here. I feel like he's just trying to like jumble up Mike to make him look stupid or something, but like this doesn't really make sense. I don't know how it's relevant either. Maybe he'll explain it.
Right? How would that brain determine it has the wrong logic?
Because it would be fallacious.
Oh, it would just.
Fallacies.
So you change the laws of logic, but it still knows what a fallacy is.
We don't change the laws of logic. That's
Wow.
not, what we're saying is that we change neurocircuitry in the brain to render something false because there's an error there, right? It doesn't. It's not describing reality correctly, or analytically, it's failing analytically. That answers your question. You're just not understanding neuroscience, I guess.
Right. Again, so if the laws of logic are sort of these emergent stragglers of the brain, that kind of a collection of configurations, and
Correct.
I go in and change the collection of configurations, I'm asking you, would that undo the laws of logic?
It would render any attempt at logic false because it would render those neurocircuitry, incorrect.
Okay. All right. So if we got rid of all human beings right now and all the brains you're talking about, if the laws of logic are produced in a brain, is a tree, even if we didn't have
I'm
the
an
name
atheist.
of it, would a tree be a rock?
I'm like, I guess I would say I'm more agnostic because I do have a spiritual side, but I'm also not like 100% committed to it. I see the possibility of a spiritual world, but I'm not 100% committed to that.
If you're saying that there is no people?
Yeah.
Yeah, so the logic, that true statement itself, a tree being a tree and a rock being a rock, those identity statements are produced by the brain itself, right? They're dependent on
understand
the
that.
brain.
I didn't say description.
Well, that's what logic is, right? Logic is descriptive for reality. And the point is that it is mind dependent. So what you're trying to say is without any minds, would logic still persist?
Okay,
No,
okay,
because
hold on.
logic is completely
You believe in
mind-
evolution, right? You believe in evolution, right?
Correct.
Was there a time where we didn't have our minds producing the laws of logic as you describe it in that configuration?
Yeah, the laws of logic are mind dependent.
Okay, cool.
Brain
So,
dependent.
okay, great. So, was there a state of affairs as previous animals or creatures in your worldview that existed in a particular way that followed lawfulness in the world, right? But preceded the mind and logic as you're describing it?
Yeah, we know that animals have
Okay,
logic.
great. That's the end of your fucking argument, dude.
No, so it's not because
no, yeah, it is.
I never said that logic.
Over.
requires- No, it's not. Nice
Yeah, it
try.
is.
But
It's
I
over.
never,
You're
I
done.
never, I never said that logic requires a human mind. Did I?
Dan.
It requires a mind. And other animals
Which
have
mind?
mind. Other animals have minds and logic. Monkeys, apes, other apes have all have logic. Crows, birds, elephants all have
What about
logic.
What about mushrooms?
They don't have brains.
So do they have logic?
Jim, this is embarrassing. Now let me
do
ask.
do,
let me-
do
let me-
mushrooms
let me
have
ask you a
logic?
question.
And somehow
No,
they're
stop.
still able to
No, you're
act
done.
lawfully
You're
in
done,
the
you're
world.
done. You're done.
It's over, dude.
You're done. So how does God ground?
Here's the
how does-
contradiction. Here's the
how does-
contradiction.
how
I'm gonna
does
no,
God
I'm
ground
gonna make
logic?
it very clear for everyone. Mike here said the laws of logic are produced by the human brains or other brains now, he included, right? So I asked him, if evolution is true, then there's a whole swath of other organisms that don't have the developed capacity to configure the laws of thought in a material way, as he described it. And for them to exist, the laws of logic must hold true that A is A, the law of identity holds, that there's an external world the animal or the organism can interact with, get its nutrients, find its things, procreate. All of these things are preceding Mike's view of the laws of logic, which demonstrates that the laws of logic precede the human mind, precede the human brain in his own view. Contradiction. Get out of here.
No,
You're out of here.
Wrong. That's not a contradiction.
Oh,
Dylan.
which part
Let me-
was wrong?
let-
None.
let me
Zero.
respond.
Hang on, let him respond, Jimbob. Let him respond.
No.
You're so dishonest. Okay?
Yes, Jimbob. Yes.
So again, I just explained to you that logic is mind dependent. It doesn't exist. It doesn't have any ontological status beyond our minds, such that you're confusing the map of the territory. You're saying, well, logic has to exist outside, beyond the minds in order to exist. Well, no, it doesn't. Logic can be purely mind dependent. And yes, if there were no minds, there would be no logic because the universe.
Yeah, I don't see how Jimbob can argue against this. If there's no minds, there's no logic. There's no conscious evaluation of the world without a mind. Unless Jimbob's going to say God.
Universe doesn't care about logic. It's not prescriptive to the universe.
Is there a
Logic
beginning
is-
of the
hold on.
universe?
Logic is descriptive to the universe, which is mind dependent. Period. Now,
Okay.
where does God get his logic? How does God ground logic in your view?
Hold on a second here. If the beginning of the universe is lawful, does lawfulness in nature require that lawfulness follows a logical pattern?
It doesn't have to, right? Like, maybe this is naive, but my understanding of the world was a balance of order and chaos. So there are some things that are absolutely predictable and can be observed in patterns, but there's other parts of the universe that are not predictable and are quite chaotic. And these things come together to create our natural world. Maybe that's a naive statement. Like, maybe even within the chaos, you could say it still operates by laws of nature, though, of course. So I guess you could say that is kind of a pattern.
Are the laws? Let me ask it simpler. Are the laws of nature logical?
No,
they're not. Okay.
How is truth outside of the brain if logic isn't? Because you don't need a brain. You don't need a mind or a brain or any being for reality to exist, right? Like, just because we can't see something doesn't mean, just because we can't see or evaluate something doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Which means that truth exists beyond humans, right? But logic is our personal way of comprehending and evaluating nature and reality. So that's what logic is. And in order to evaluate and comprehend the reality around us, you do need a mind to do that. But the reality would exist either way, if somebody was evaluating it or not. We're saying logic and God are inherently dependent on each other. I just don't understand, like, why. Like, I understand that's your statement. I just don't know why you've come to that conclusion. Other than, like, your faith, right?
Okay.
The laws of
Which is
nature
fine.
are
That's
not
a fine
logical.
answer.
They're just
Okay.
also descriptions in our minds. Our minds describe reality through laws of nature. And yes, the laws of nature, as we
Are they
describe
consistent?
them, and follow logic. Yes, of course. But they're
So is
not
consistent?
themselves- Can I respond? Can I
Sorry.
respond?
Is consistent a logical term?
my-
Go ahead.
Yes,
Go ahead. Sorry.
yes,
I'm sorry.
The point is that the laws of nature are merely descriptors for how we perceive the universe to be working. And yes, they could also follow laws of logic in the sense that, they should follow identity, not contradiction, blah, blah, blah. The point is
they're logical.
that the laws of nature or the laws of logic or laws of thought do not exist beyond our minds. They don't. The universe's ontology is unknown to us. But our minds can produce these descriptors, these maps of reality. And that's what we call logic and laws of nature. They don't exist beyond our minds. So stop confusing the map for the territory.
Okay, so the laws of nature, all the way back to your concept of a beginning. The lawfulness of that beginning, the lawfulness of the regularity in nature, that it's consistent, right? If that all preceded any view of a mind, any view of a brain, according to your view, which it does, right? It preceded all of it, right? I'm saying
no, it doesn't.
It doesn't.
You're
so where's the mind? Where's the first mind in the beginning of all things?
Yeah, that's a straw man. Again, you're not understanding what I just told you, because you would never ask this question if you did.
Are the laws of nature consistent?
When the sheer fact, the sheer statement, is it consistent, or the laws of nature consistent, is in itself a true statement that is mind dependent. So there is no
no, dude, no.
That has ontological status beyond the mind.
Okay, great. So
again, and I just finished you. If you don't understand it,
you can't get out of this.
You're having a hard time debating.
No, you're not getting out of this. The regularity of nature, does it precede minds? Yes or no?
Again, the sheer statement.
No, you're not gonna answer. You're not gonna answer.
Wait, what do you
precede
say?
minds? Yes or no?
A hard time debating.
No, you're not getting out of this. The regularity of nature, does it precede minds? Yes or no?
Again,
the irregularity of nature, does it perceive minds? Yes or no? I don't even know like what that means. Does nature perceive that minds exist? I don't understand the point of that question.
The sheer statement.
No, you're not gonna answer. You're not gonna answer.
I am. Can I? Okay. the sheer statement that there is regularity in nature or that there's consistency in nature is in itself a descriptive statement that is mind dependent.
Right. If I didn't describe it, would it still be true that there was a precondition of lawfulness before we arrived on the scene?
Truth is also mind dependent. Truth does not exist beyond the mind.
Okay. Was there a truth? There was no truth about the world before. So every time you on your videos might go 33 billion years ago, X was happening. According to your own view, that's not true because there was no mind to observe it, dude. Your worldview is fucking shit. Flush it down the toilet. Get out of here.
That is such a oversimplified and like childish view of that. We can observe, we have fossils. We have like rock sediments. We have weatherware. Again, I'm not a scientist, but we have plenty of observable, why can't I say that? Observable things in our current world that teach us about how the world used to be. And again, I feel like this argument works against Jimbob because you can't see God, right? Just because you can't see something means that you can't verify it for yourself, right? Okay, well that works against the Christian argument 100%. Unless he's doing an internal critique or whatever. But I don't think he is. He's just literally saying, well, how would you know that?
Here. You just denied all history. All your videos. The black holes and the big combustion. Everything you're referring to in your cosmology is now bunk.
He's combusting.
It's bunk.
Are you combusting, Jim? But you need a fire.
No, I'm just expressive, bro.
Okay. You need a fire hose. Okay. So,
Okay, hang on. Before you respond, Mike, I just want to say we only got about 5 minutes left here in the open dialogue. Mike, if you want to go down one last line of questioning here, I think these topics have kind of gotten beaten here. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. So when it comes to, you typically use a tag argument, right? Your precept. So again, how do you ground logic under your worldview?
Thank you.
Let me answer.
Yes.
Okay. Without rejecting the statements, okay? Just let me explain it. For my view, the laws of thought are immaterial, right? They're absolute. We can't change them. And because those laws are concepts and we're mere humans, human beings can't create absolute concepts. Now, you don't have to accept the premises that laws of logic are absolute concepts. I don't know how you're going to argue otherwise because we can't challenge them. But if someone agrees the laws of thought are conceptual and absolute, and that humans can't generate absolute concepts, right? Then it follows from my view that it's reasonable to assume an absolute mind is to account for absolute concepts.
I understand. I know that. The problem is we can ground absolutes in our minds because absolutes are just definitionally true. They're just analytical statements about what.
Not if your mind changes. We already established. You just change the brain format and the way it's formulated, and then suddenly the descriptions change.
The neural circuitry stays the same.
No, you can change the circuitry, and then your descriptions change, right?
If that's the case, then it would render false statements. The point is that neural circuitry.
That's the new truth.
In the brain.
Well, the new truth.
All right.
So is Jimbob basically saying that he feels because he's just a mere human that can't determine reality, then therefore can't determine truth, then therefore there must be a greater mind that can? And then therefore that's what truth is? But he doesn't know it. He just knows that there's something out there that does know it? That's what I got from what he said, which doesn't make much sense to me. Maybe somebody can better explain.
This is listen. Neural circuitry in the brain doesn't change. In fact, neurons exist for decades in your brain. They don't change. The point is that as you have a functioning brain, you can still ground absolutes because absolutes are merely analytical. Now, how do you know that God grounds logic? Aren't you using logic to make that statement in the first place?
No, I have to account for a mind to give me logic.
Why? Okay, let's grant you that. Logic. Let's just grant you that minds are required for logic. Why does it have to be a God? Why do you have to add God to that?
Because when I use the term absolute, The only thing I can equate with absolute as a being with a mind would be God level, just roughly speaking, I would say.
Hey, do you agree that if I have an analytical truth, it's absolutely true?
Like what? Can you give me an example?
Like A is A. Is that absolutely true?
A is A. Well, it's not actually true. The law that you're referring to, hold on, just you don't let me answer. If you let me answer, if someone redefines A as two different things, you have to evaluate it, right?
All right, let me ask you again on the first.
I mean, we can just take something simple. I would say, something that I would say is an absolute truth is that humans need oxygen to survive. Every time, it is very observable, if humans do not have oxygen, they die. Right? So I feel like that is a very verifiable truth that I do not see a way of how that could be deceitful. I don't think there's a way of deceiving me into believing that oxygen actually isn't required for humans to survive. So I don't know. I don't understand. I don't think Jimbob really has an answer here, which is again why I think he tried to control the entire debate. There's only 5 minutes left, and we've pretty much only been interrogating Mike's atheistic view, which is a shame.
Is that true?
Jimbob?
Oh, I make a clarification and suddenly it's first grade? Come on, dude. Don't be bad faith.
Okay.
You would agree with what I just responded to, right?
A equals A.
Can we define A as two different things, right? Yes or no?
No, they're definitionally
Of course you
the same.
can.
A equals A. Would that they're definitionally the same? Would it be absolutely true at that end?
A equals A? Yeah, if
Yeah.
they're defined as the same thing, the law of identity holds.
Great. So they're absolutely true.
No,
Great. So do you
go ahead.
So do you agree that analytical statements that can be produced by our minds, by my mind as a human, do you believe that that it can be absolutely true?
No, I reject that it's produced. I believe we apprehend
Okay.
as
So
opposed
why?
to produce.
Why is it impossible that me as a mere human with a mind can ground absolutes?
That we can't ground them? Because like laws like logic or mathematical descriptions, if they're absolute, we're actually discovering them. If we created them, then we could change them, right? Wouldn't it follow that we can change them?
Yeah, you're not answering.
No, listen, I just answered. No, I didn't.
Where is the contradiction?
The contradiction is
in a human mind grounding absolutes.
Here's the contradiction. If what you call an absolute concept or descriptive truth is create.
Yes, everybody dies at some point with or without oxygen, but without oxygen, you are going to die. Another absolute truth is that everybody dies. Even though maybe that's not an absolute truth. Maybe there's some discovery out there that will make us live forever. But, so yeah, but I would say that it is an absolute truth that humans need oxygen to survive. No matter for how long for, right? If you take away oxygen, you're not going to have a person.
Created conventionally by a human, then we can conventionally change that description. That's the problem.
Yeah, but the point is that they're definitionally the same, which would render them absolute. That's the point. If I can define A as A and they're defined the same, that's absolutely true, correct? And you agree, right?
If the laws of thought are true, yes. But that's not the humans producing the laws of thought.
Wow, this is like teaching them. Okay.
So because humans don't produce reality, he's coming to the conclusion that there's something that did, and this something that did has to be an all-knowing, almighty being. Like, I just don't know how you bridge that gap. Like, yes, I understand humans are not the creators of reality, but I don't understand why there has to be a higher power that did create it, rather than just nature and the physics of our universe. Which is what makes more sense to me and bridges the actual gaps of how did we get here. We only breathe a percentage of oxygen. Yeah, but without oxygen, right, we wouldn't be able to breathe, correct? I'm not saying we like only oxygen, because I'm pretty sure too high of a percent of oxygen in the air can also kill us. But whatever it is, like, so if you want to replace oxygen with air, that's fine.
You're not teaching anybody,
So-
dude. You're a fucking clown.
Okay.
The thing is, you're assuming.
There it is. There it is.
What?
The Christian
What?
love.
They're what?
The
Yeah.
Christian
what?
love here.
Oh,
Okay.
stop. You're
So-
so be a pussy.
Well, then answer the fucking question, right? So
I did
the
answer
first-
it.
this
It's
is
got a
first-
faulty premise. It's got a
this is
faulty
a-
premise smuggled into it, dude.
This is a first stage.
Because there seems to be logic and order to the universe before humans existed. Yeah. But that doesn't mean that a god necessarily has to exist just because there is order. Well, and first of all, I don't even know if I would concede that logic existed before consciousness did. It seems logical to us because it makes sense to us, right? Like, it makes sense that because it is our reality, it inherently has to make sense to us. So it inherently is logical that this is how the laws of nature work. But that is just our evaluation again of it. Or our evaluation of nature. Christians claim God is the creator of logic and knowledge because he is a member of our species. I personally just cannot bridge the gap there. Like, I don't see a need for God's existence to get what we have today. But, and like, I again, like I've said, I am a spiritual person. So I have experienced a feeling of like, all of this just seems too good to be true. It seems too perfect, too detailed, too precise for us to exist. Like, it seems like everything just had to go right for us to exist, and it just seems very weird. Like, why do we exist at all? These are questions that have been like on my mind since I was a child, literally. But again, I think that our brains can deceive us sometimes into thinking, like, because we exist, that means that there has to be something that created us, because it just seems so weird to us. But really, it's just, we're pretty small, and our understanding of the universe is so big and complex that that's the only way we can possibly understand it, is like, well, there has to be something that made us, right? Because like, it just seems so weird to us. So, but yeah, like, as I said, I do have a spiritual side to me that like does question these things. Like, wow, it just seemed kind of weird, but I don't see an absolute need for a God to get to where we are today. That's why I'm not 100% committed to a spiritual world, but I am open to the idea, I would say. Just not a Christian one. I would say if there is a spiritual being or spiritual element to our nature and reality, it is something that we have no idea what could even possibly be. We don't have the slightest idea at all to comprehend what it is.
This is a first day question.
It's got a
A
faulty
equals
premise.
A equals A. That is a definitional statement. They are defined the same. It means
Yep.
it's an absolute statement, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Great. Now that's absolute statement. Can that be produced in my mind?
Produced? No, apprehended. We just have different terms in the methodology.
Okay. Why can't I produce in my brain an absolute statement?
Because if what you're calling production is a material method, then someone else.
Is the spiritual realm you believe in have any relation to the physical world? Again, I don't know. I'm not 100% committed to the spiritual realm. I have pondered about it. So I'm like open to the idea that one could exist. And does it have any relation to the physical world? in my mind, yes, it would. And the way I would see it is through something like energy. It would have to be some kind of like energy source, not like electricity, but some kind of like energy waves, or again, it's something that I would not be able to explain. But yes, if I would commit to some kind of like spiritual realm, it would be connected to the physical world through some type of energy. That's like where I'm at pretty much.
Else can produce not that, and you wouldn't have an argument against them producing whatever their description is. A doesn't equal. Guess what? There's a bunch of people.
I know that.
Dude, there's a bunch of people running around saying they're a woman when they're descriptively not a woman.
Again, women's gender is not the same as sex. They're different.
Is A equals A?
Okay, hang on, stop. Hang on.
No,
Before we derail into that conversation, I know you guys both have differing views on it, but it's not pertinent to this particular argument. The debate that we've run out of time, we do need to get into closing statements, so I'm going to call it there before we derail. Mike, because you went first on your opening statement, we're going to give you the last word. So Jimbob, whenever you're ready, you have 7 minutes on the clock for your closing statement.
Okay, so it's common when I bring up the problem with universal mechanistic determinism that the opponent says, well, no, everything's determined except for that part where we access truth. Of course, that part is determined, but we have access to truth. They always get into bind here. They start freaking out. They don't know what to do with it. They say then, well, what's the problem? The problem is this. Again, for the audience, if mechanism A, who has a name, Mike, says a statement, and mechanism B, that we call Jimbob, produces a statement, then the very methodology to come to the truthfulness or the invalidity of either statement, if that method is also just determined by natural laws, we're going to be constantly appealing to the next person. Well, is it true? Well, is it true? Well, is it true? Onward and onward and onward, right? We're going to keep going. We won't know the truth because whatever someone claims to be truth, we can just say, well, you were just determined to say that. Now we need to really get to the bottom of this. We got to find someone who's not determined to say what they're going to say. And this is what's so ironic.
I don't think that makes sense. I don't think that's a logical argument.
Is that we're in a debate. The very act of debating assumes that Mike has a mind and a brain, right? And they're conjoined in some way. In my view, they're not identical. And Mike's, they are. That's fine. He comes to the debate arguing that maybe we ought to pursue truth things, right? Maybe Christianity is false. Okay, this assumes that we have minds that can supersede lawfulness, right? And come to conclusions based on reasoning and thought, evaluation. If it's just machinery, we have no access to evaluation because the thing that's happening is just coded to happen the way it happens.
No.
So there's no way you...
No, that's not how that works. Again, like, you're not just like... Humans aren't like coded in a way where it's like... I guess in a way they are, but we're also coded to evaluate. Like, it's not like a computer where you put in this, you tell the computer to do this, and it puts out that, right? Because computers aren't conscious. The difference between us and a computer is consciousness. How many brains are needed to verify truth? I mean, I guess as many as possible, right? The more you have, the better. But like, I would say even 2 would be enough. If you guys are say it's like back in the day and you have an apple and you throw it up in the air and someone sees it come, like you see it come down, and then you ask somebody else, or no, how about let's say you bite into an apple and you say, oh, it's juicy or something. And then somebody else bites into the apple and they're like, I agree, this is a juicy fruit. Whatever we understand juicy to mean. I feel like that's enough verification to say apples are juicy. You know what I mean? But obviously the more people to verify things, the better. The more credible it's going to be.
You can access it, right? The other problem with his view, which really showed itself at the end there, was that he tried to reduce laws of logic to the brain and physicality. And what happens there is, under his own view, there was a previous universe that preceded all minds.
Or like, say you have a schizophrenic person who says that they see a ghost in the doorway, and you have another person that doesn't see a ghost in the doorway. Who is going to determine what's true? You probably need at least a third person there to verify, no, there is not a ghost in the doorway. You know what I mean? So I guess it kind of like depends, but the more brains to verify something, the more credible the claim will be.
Organisms. There was an operating universe that worked in a lawful way, and A still equals A was true then, according to his own view. So, according to his own view, he has to negate all of the previous history he usually talks about on his YouTube videos because the mind isn't there to describe it. So, because the mind isn't there to describe it,
That's so stupid.
A doesn't equal A. Therefore, there is no Big Bang. Why? Because you need a mind there to describe A equals A. Expansion. You need something there to describe it, right? So, at best, it's post hoc description, right? But what he's negating is that there's an actual reality that was lawful. The reason we say, are the laws of nature consistent, right? Another faith position we didn't even get into from Mike's view. That he has faith that the laws of physics will maintain. However, he'd have to concede that they might not. Now, here's the problem is epistemology. If truth is based as an effect of the laws of nature, and the laws of nature could actually suspend themselves and suddenly not operate the same way, that means as an entailment, the thing he's calling truth or evaluating claims would also change as a consequence. I'll say it one more time and I'll close it up. If the laws of thought are consequences of nature, and the regularity of nature could actually flip on itself and suddenly not be the case, then his whole entire system of epistemology, which is an effect of previous laws, would then change. The truth is no longer the truth. A no longer equals A. In my view, A equals A, because A equals A, the ultimate A equals A is God. God. A is A. Without this foundation of an ultimate being who grounds ultimate truths, you're left with concepts as mere
Again, like, that's just too oversimplistic of a statement. I understand people say God is truth, truth is God. I understand that's a statement, but, like, can you really ground that out any deeper than that? Like, especially because God is not observable or verifiable. So I don't think that Christians have any, like, one-up on objective truth. I don't think anybody has objective truth. I think it's subjective to us. Does this count for all beliefs? If more people believe in God than don't, does that make theism more verified? No, because God is not verifiable. So if, I don't know, if you could actually like see or experience God physically, and there were a lot of people that did that, but it's called faith for a reason. It is a belief. You have faith. So yeah, like if more people believe that, just because somebody believes something does not mean it's verifiable. I mean, in my opinion, everything has to be subjective to us. We only have a limited capability of experiencing the world around us. And we do not have the capability of experiencing the world through another lens, especially like another species lens or another being's lens. So the world has to be subjective to our experience and our capabilities of understanding our experiences and reality.
Phenomenal, changing patterns of the mind, of the brain. It can change next year, and suddenly the truth as we describe it changes. With one hypothetical, if all the brains, according to Mike, were rewired, that means all of them, rewired to produce what we know today as false descriptions. But in that reality, they're not false to anyone because they are programmed to fulfill a very specific task of producing an outcome consistent with the inputs. Input, output, input, output. Machines don't produce knowledge, they convey it. And the only reason a machine can convey knowledge is because we have human minds that have access to metaphysics, logic, and other immaterial categories, which under his materialistic view, he can't justify a single one. That's my time.
By the way, I do want to say, because I think I do see some new names in the chat, I really do appreciate everybody here, and I appreciate different views. I have no hate towards Christians or anything. I just disagree with your worldview and your perspective. And I just like to talk about these things. I enjoy having these, not even necessarily debates, but I enjoy talking about these different perspectives with people in a mature, calm, respectable manner. So I appreciate everybody who is here, who has different beliefs than me, and is willing to discuss them with me. So it's kind of what I'm going for on this channel. So thank you.
All right. Thank you for that closing statement, Jimbob. And same to you, Mike. Whenever you're ready, you have 7 minutes on the clock for your closing statement.
Great. Yeah. So today during the debate, my opponent, I asked him several questions about, how he grounds logic. He couldn't answer. I asked him to point out a contradiction in why a deterministic mind cannot produce truth. He could not point out the contradiction at all. He didn't even know what a contradiction was. We also didn't mention any of the things I actually talked about in my opening statement. We didn't actually talk about any of that because he was so focused on that one thing that he just couldn't, concede to. Pretty embarrassing. To address this closing statement ideas, well, truth in itself is descriptive, and this is a purely naturalistic way to describe reality. I don't need God, I don't need Christianity to use logic. It's something inherent to our brains. It's just how we evolved to be, and that is how we ground logic. Now, when it comes to him saying that we can't come to truth with it because it's mechanistic, well, we stop at truth when it is verified to be accurate. In other words, when it is verified to be as close to or as accurate to reality as close as possible. For example, a tree grows via photosynthesis, right? How we know it's true is because we consistently view it. We consistently observe it and describe it, therefore.
That's pretty funny, Jerry. I'll keep that in mind.
That's the point. That's how logic is produced. That's how logical statements are generated, and that's how true statements are made. Now, when it comes to Jimbob saying that, the universe wouldn't exist without us, or the Big Bang wouldn't happen without us to describe it, that's also a straw man. He's confusing the map for the territory. The idea that the Big Bang didn't happen because there's no mind to describe it is false, because we're not saying that the universe itself is connected to my mind. What we're saying is that, sure, there's a reality beyond our minds that we think exists. We call it reality. We don't know the ontology of it. Sure, it's unknown. But the point is that we attempt to describe it, right? Much like a map attempting to describe something, like GTA. We use the map of GTA to describe the game, but the map is not equivalent to the game. So Jimbob completely confuses the map for the territory. Again, and to his last statement, if we rewired all the brains, you would come to false statements. Okay. Just like if we all produced faulty computers, it would, come to false statements about things. Of course, if we build a faulty system, it wouldn't work correctly. And it wouldn't produce logic. And if it could, it would likely be faulty logic. The point is that you need a specific systematic configuration in order to yield true statements. And that's all you need for truth. I don't need God. I don't need Christianity. I can ground logic truth in a purely naturalistic way. And we can understand the universe naturally, and that's amazing. We can ground ethics, morality. We can ground all these things naturally. And we are still stuck with many problems in the theistic view when it comes to ethics, morality, when it comes to the transcendentals, free will. There's a lot of things baked into theology that are just fallacious. And we couldn't, unfortunately, attempt to even get to those things because Jimbob was stuck on this idea that he thought he had me on, but he didn't. Because logic comes from the brain.
I think Mike made some good points too, but I do think he should have pushed back a little bit harder and moved on from his initial question. Like the things he was just talking about, I wish he did get more into that. But they really just stayed stuck on that one question. Why can't I ground truth in determinism? And so yeah, like I like Mike's perspective. And he only has like 7,000 subscribers. I don't know how like much he debates, like how often he debates, so he might just not be like a like debater, a skilled debater or whatever. So yeah, I wish he did push back a little bit more. Sorry, my sweatpants are, I have shorts on me. Okay, anyway, sorry. Yeah, I just wish he was like able to move on to different points and interrogate Jimbob's worldview a little bit more. But that's easy to do, especially if you're not like a common debater. It's easy to just allow the interrogation and answer the questions rather than controlling the conversation. Which, like, Jimbob and Andrew Wilson are very good at controlling and directing these conversations, which is why I think they're so successful. Well, especially Andrew at debating. Yeah, Jimbob debates a lot, for sure.
And this is evidenced by data, which Jimbob rejects for some reason. He wasn't even interested in any science that I have to present. Very dishonest, very fallacious.
He doesn't believe in it.
With that, I can see my time, and that's all.
All right, thank you for that closing statement. Thank you, gentlemen, for the very spirited debate. I enjoyed it. I really had to moderate more than I'm used to, but that's what
You're
we're
welcome.
here for. Yeah. Thank you.
All right, so there is an hour left. I don't think we're going to do all of it. I think I'm going to skip the super chats. They have some callers that join, so I think I'm going to go to some of the callers. I think Andrew Wilson joins too. So maybe after Andrew Wilson joins, I'll end the stream, but I'm going to skip over the super chats because they're mostly pretty dumb.
Backstage, guys, you'll get priority. So cam up, and I'll bring you on quicker. But other than that, we'll get to Mendoza. Welcome. Go ahead whenever
These
you're ready.
two.
Brother, you actually took the challenge. I commend you, Mr. Brigandi. We spoke a few days ago. But
Can you get closer to the computer? Sorry.
What's that?
Are we having? I'm having some trouble hearing. Can
You are
get
a little
closer
bit
to
quiet, Mendoza.
Okay, so Mike, your arguments are the results of cause and effect, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And so are Jimbob's, right?
Correct.
So they share the same status, right? They share the same value.
What do you mean by value?
Well, they're both the results of the same processes, natural process, right?
Yeah, they're produced by natural processes. Yep.
Right. So you believe you're right. Jimbob believes he's right. You're saying he's wrong. Jimbob's saying you're wrong. Okay. But we're arriving at two fundamental contradictions via the same process. So determinism can get you to two contradictory propositions about reality.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. So what if everything in nature, including all human action, is determined? How are you going to appeal to determinism to determine what's true if determinism itself can produce contradictory propositions?
Well, we can point out, as I did today in the debate, deterministically, fallacies in Jimbob's view. That's the point. We can be determined to point out contradictions or criticize or critique other views. That all is compatible with a deterministic view. I don't know what the holdup is here.
Right. Like who is able to provide more evidence for their worldview, I guess. And obviously, like, atheism and theism has been going at it for centuries. So I understand that. I concede that. But I do personally believe, which is why I am an atheist or agnostic, that there is more evidence and more my like deductive reasoning and logic believes me to understand an atheistic or agnostic or deterministic worldview more so than a theist worldview. It makes more sense to me. But again, you can just say the same thing to Jimbob. Like, why does Jimbob's world, even though we have this all-knowing being, which is, like, literally they're saying God is truth, then why do we still have people coming to different conclusions of what truth is?
Yeah,
Everything I believe is determined to be the case, but I can also be influenced to recognize that I'm wrong
Yes.
if I'm convinced deterministically.
So
Yes.
you can be determined to believe false things, right?
Yes.
Yes.
If convincing is a tweaking of matter, could I just skip the argumentation and just tweak your brain to believe what I believe if it's all input based?
Sure, you can do that, but that would render a false belief.
Wait, no,
So-
that I believe what you believe. Like what if you tweaked my brain to believe what you believe?
What does he mean by tweak your brain?
Is that a genetic fallacy?
And
Does he
then
mean,
we
like,
would both be
convince
right if I was
somebody?
correct, if I was verified to be correct.
Yeah, so not only can determinism it completely nullifies and undercuts the possibility of knowledge. The fact that you don't have free will also undercuts the possibility of knowledge, because arriving to knowledge involves the process of evaluation and selection of good and bad info, good evidence versus bad evidence, et cetera, et cetera. So if you don't have the free will, the volition, the mind, the personhood, right, to choose freely between what you consider good and bad information to arrive at something you call knowledge.
Why do we have to freely choose it? Where's a contradiction in the deterministic?
Because if you don't freely, because somebody can be determined to believe false things, and so the same process is arriving at two.
You can be determined to believe false things. I don't think you can freely choose to believe false things. You can be led down a path that leads you to believing something that is false, like flat earthers, let's say. Something has led them to believe that the earth is flat. You can be led to that. Can you freely choose to believe in something that's false? That's a contradiction. If you believe in something, that means you think it's true. So you can't freely choose to believe in falsehoods. That just doesn't make sense. It has to be determined. Your beliefs have to be determined.
Yeah, but we can also be determined to come to true statements.
No, there's a contradiction, is that your worldview can't account for the logic you're appealing to come to contradictions, which I tried to tell you. Because why? Yeah. Because we're all determined to use logic the exact way we're supposed to given our material setup. That's all.
But that could be influenced by other people with their logic. That's the entire point of discussion.
All right. Mendoza, one last follow-up here. Yep.
I just want to play something of Mr. Mike's, a proclamation of Mike's right here.
My position is way more parsimonious.
Let me see if I can get here. How can you have a position that your position is more parsimonious if your position assumes that there is no correct position?
Because your position assumes there is a correct position, and mine concedes there is no.
So even yours, right? Including yours?
There is no objectively correct. There is no objectively correct.
Including your position, right?
Yes.
Have a great check-in day, dude. That's the end of your position, dude. You yourself conceded that there is no objectively correct position, including your position.
Yeah, and this is what I've been saying all night. We can't know objective truth. You can want to believe a false true. Yeah, sure. You can want to believe something that isn't true. I could want to believe that I can live forever, or I can want to believe that I'm going to meet the love of my life, which I already have, but I'm just giving you an example. Oh, wait, hold on. The second one doesn't count. I can want to believe that I live forever, right? But obviously that's not true. But I can't make myself believe that I will live forever, knowing that I can't. Like, I can't just convince myself to believe something that I know is not true. I am determined to believe that it's not true based on all the empirical evidence, like, that shows me that I can't live forever. So I can't choose to believe that I will.
So
yeah, nice try.
So you're done. That's the end of your position. You yourself, your presuppositions contain the seeds.
Okay, Mendoza, let him respond. Let him respond, and then we got to move on. Thank you, Mendoza.
If you actually watch the context of that, we were talking about morality, not analytical truths.
Yeah, it's a
contradiction.
Moral statements,
which I concede are not objective.
It's a contradiction to believe something that's not true.
But true statements about the universe can be
know
objective,
something that's
depending
not true.
on if they're analytical or not. So that was a very dishonest thing to say.
Not believe.
All right, and before we get into our next caller, I'm going to read a couple of super chats here. Thank you guys who have sent in your super chats. We will get to all of them.
Skip the super chats.
Beginning Thomas Eddick says for $5, Mike's opening was him.
You gentlemen to steelman each other's arguments, because it's kind of unclear what exactly Mike believes about determinism or predeterminism.
All right, we'll start with Mike then. Start with.
All right, so he just asked for them to steelman each other's arguments.
You want them to steelman each other's arguments or steelman their own arguments?
Each other's.
Okay, so Mike, go ahead and start and steelman Jimbob.
Which argument? Like, he made multiple arguments. Which one do you want me to do?
Yeah, because it's kind of about predeterminism or determinism.
Well, Jimbob all he was saying was that I can't come to truth if there's a deterministic mechanism that yields it. That's what he was saying, and that is not an argument. That's just an assertion that he's made. That
hold on. Jimbob, is that correct that that's what you believe? Is Mike properly representing you? You're muted, by the way. You're muted, Jimbob. You're muted.
Yeah,
Muted.
determinism makes knowledge impossible because all outputs are actually just determined by causal things. So if knowledge or the experience of coming to knowledge is an epiphenomenal effect of cause, then something called a truth claim is just input based. So that means that coming to truth, according to his view, would just be a bunch of inputs. But then again, you'd need knowledge about which inputs produce knowledge, which is circular. So it's a never-ending task, and you can demonstrate it because when I ask, someone says X is true and the other person says Y is true and they contradict, we go to a third person to be the selector. And then if under his view, the third person, whatever they say that comes out of their mouth is totally determined by previous inputs, then we have to know if they're true or not. Well, how do we validate that? And then you just keep going on and on and on. And this is a problem because it negates the possibility of a mind being independent, but in conjunction with a mechanism. I'm not saying the mechanism doesn't exist. I'm saying you need a mind independent of just causality to come to truth, because you have to actually evaluate it with your will, with your reasoning, right? So it's just it reduces all thinking to I always use the example of like water, coming from a hot spring. Why would thinking and making propositions under his worldview be any different than a hot spring producing, geysers or something like this? There wouldn't be any difference.
And then Jimbob, go ahead and Steelman Mike's argument and see if Mike agrees to the Steelman.
I don't understand.
I'd say
what you're
Mike's
saying.
position is that a naturalistic view, in his view, best describes the phenomenon we engage with in the world, and he relies on his senses, but other people's senses, to try to verify the best notion of the collection of sense data. And that even if all of that is determined, like a machine, to spit out outputs, in his view, he still has access to knowledge.
And I don't understand why he keeps relating it to a machine. It's not really like a machine. There are some like mechanical components, I guess, to how humans operate and function, but I don't see it as like I'm saying this because I was coded to compute this information. Like, it's not the same.
In that view.
All right, was that an accurate representation, Mike?
No? Yeah, I give it a B.
B's not
Okay.
bad.
All right. Well, thank you for the call in, Fredo. We have received the Steelmans from each side. Appreciate it very much. Next caller, we got Fresh Pelmani. Welcome, Fresh Pelmani. Go ahead.
Howdy, everyone. I'm sitting outside in the wind again, so I can't see shit, but I'll see if I can at least understand what's going on. Mike, so would you accept the proposition that the universe has ontology?
Yeah.
Okay. Did this ontology exist prior to there being any minds to evidence it?
As far as I can see, yes, most likely.
Okay. Does ontology necessarily suggest structure?
No.
Okay,
You can have chaos. You can have chaos.
Okay, so would you say in your view the universe is chaotic?
Yeah, for the most part, the universe is chaotic, and there could be pockets of order, which we call Earth, but in totality, the universe is chaotic and getting more chaotic through entropy.
Like, if the universe is at all chaotic, how can... Well, okay, let me step to the next question then.
I personally think it's a balance of order and chaos. So, I think there is order and there is chaos that creates our world.
Is the universe's ontology at all knowable?
Yeah, we try to, using our senses and empiricism.
Potentially, but very unlikely is what I would say.
Logic, yes.
No, I'm not asking if we try to. I'm asking whether it is.
That's the question of the universe. I don't know. I don't have epistemic access to absolutes.
Okay,
all I can say is...
so you have a method which is trying to understand the nature of the universe,
right,
when you don't actually know whether or not the universe itself can be understood, and then you go
to the best of our abilities, in order for us as humans to survive for our best selves, right? Like, there is obviously an underlining philosophy, like a deep philosophical question to find out the meaning of life, right? But for the most part, the reason that we are trying to understand the reality around us is to enhance our way of living. It's to enhance our experiences on this planet, right? To give us comfort, to give us better health, longer lifespans. You know what I mean? To help people, to progress our society, to live the best possible way we can. That is what most of our truth seeking is used for, is for ourselves. And then beyond that, there is a deep philosophical question, like to just figure out what the meaning of life. But most of this is just used for our own experience. So to be honest, whether like our truth is objective or not doesn't really matter as long as it ends up applying to us, right? As long as it ends up working out and applying to our lives through our perspective, that's really all that matters.
Go ahead and you say, Jimbob's wrong, even
No.
though I can't know what's actually true and false on the basis of the fact that reality or truth is the proposition of being able to map onto reality, but I don't actually know that I can know reality.
No, that's actually false. That's a straw man. I never said that we can't know the ontology of the universe.
No, that's
I
the
did.
logical. That is the implication of your system. You said that the
I-
universe is an
I-
ontology,
so,
which is probably
listen,
chaotic, but I don't
I
know what the
said-
ontology is. And then you said that the way that
Hold
the
on,
universe
hold
is
on,
true,
hold
or
on.
true being
Hang on.
maps onto
No civilization ever developed without religion. Wouldn't that point to it being a good thing? No civilization anyways. I don't think that inherently means that it's good. I think that points to the fact that humans are constantly looking humans are constantly asking the whys. Humans are constantly asking the questions. Where did we come from and why? I think it explains that our consciousness is more developed than any other animal or species on this planet. And it really just, it points to our curiosity, the nature of human nature. Human nature is super curious. We want to figure these things out. And I think that every civilization ever has developed with religion points to that like curious nature of humans. And again, I did say this in the beginning of the stream, I do understand some Christians' arguments that having a society under a religion leads to better outcomes. I don't know if I necessarily agree with it, but I can see how that is a valid argument. If you have people believing in God and believing in evil, this may lead people to behave better in society. Maybe. I don't know if that's ultimately true, though. I do personally believe that we can have an atheistic society that is also just as good and caring for each other as a community. So that's my personal belief, but I do think that is a valid argument from Christians. It gives kids a way of understanding good and bad in a very like simplistic way, I guess. Church also provides community, which I think is great for people. So I do think there are good aspects of church and Christianity, but me personally, I don't want to just believe in something because I think it's like, you know, I am a truth seeker. Like, I'm trying to actually figure out the truth. But if other people need to lean on Christianity in order to like behave better as a human, then by all means, like, go for it. You know what I mean? Like, if less people are going to hurt each other because they believe in God and they're afraid of going to hell, then all means, like, that's probably a good thing. But I think there are plenty of people that don't need that in order to behave well to our fellow human beings.
reality, and then you're saying that I can basically say what's true or false based on knowing what reality is when you don't know that you know what reality is.
I don't need to know the absolute ontology of the universe to describe it. Why do I need to know
You
absolute?
can't describe something.
Hang on, hang on, Fresh, Fresh, hold on, let Mike respond here. Go ahead.
Why do I need to know absolutes about the universe to have truth?
Do you know any of the universe's ontology at all?
We try to through physics and science. We attempt to. That's the point.
Do they actually ever reach the mark of knowing the universe's ontology?
We are so.
And we can ask you the same thing, Fresh Pelmeni. Do you know? Do you know the truth? You're going to say that you do, but you cannot prove it to me. So, I know the truth. Truth is God. Okay, but can you prove that to me? Again, like, I can't prove my view. I think I have logic that shows that it is more likely, but I don't think this is much of an argument, honestly.
Subjects. We are not parts. We are not objective absolute things, right? We are just subjects in an absolute universe.
No, I'm not asking about whether or not. I'm not asking about where our position in state is. I'm asking whether or not in our position.
Yeah, we
in state,
can't know.
Look.
We don't have epistemic access to empirical absolutes. I don't know the absolute ontology, but all I'm trying to do as
then
a
how do you say
being,
what is true and false?
hold on, by describing it, by describing reality through logic and empiricism and observation. That's all we can do.
Okay, so yeah, okay, but then that just basically falls into Jimbob's trap, because at that point you can have any.
But you don't know the truth either.
That subset of logic, which acts as a functional description of the universe, which might even be pragmatic, but is ultimately
there's
no
multiple logic.
The nature of the universe
multiple ways to describe.
so this whole statement of what's true and what's false is pointless. It's just at this stage, there's nothing that can be said at all.
Why is it pointless?
I don't think. I understand Mike's points here, but I don't think he's doing a good job of describing what he actually means, right? So these people are thinking they're having a win on him, but they're really not. Again, he's probably not a common debater. He's probably not debating commonly. So
when we can come to truth,
it's pointless because it never actually. It's pointless because you have the goal explicitly set by saying truth is that which maps onto reality, and you say you cannot know what the nature of reality is.
Yeah, that's why we
science.
So listen, science is an approximation of what we think the universe is.
Yes.
Science is not absolute.
Yes.
No scientist or physicist ever says that we have epistemic access to absolute empirics.
That we
It's
know
nonsense.
everything. That's why everything, lots of science is just theories, and science is evolving. And when science evolves, that's a good thing. That's the difference between Christianity and science. When in science there's new discoveries, scientists are open to that. They are welcome to that. But Christianity, they have to maintain what is in the Bible to be truth. They cannot really progress, right? Or else that disproves their beliefs and their religion. Where science is welcome to changing, new discoveries, and progression, new knowledge.
Try our best to map reality. Whatever the ontology of the universe is, it is unknown to us, and that
how
it
can
always
you map
will.
reality when you have conceded that reality is unmappable? You're saying that reality is unmappable.
No, I did not.
Reality
is mappable. Reality is mappable through science, logic, and empiricism.
All right, one last rejoinder here. One last one.
You're just gibberish. You're just gibbering right now. You're just yapping, right?
Okay, hang on. Hold on, both of you. Hold on, fresh. Hold on. One last rejoinder. Make it your final point, then we got to move on.
I think my point's pretty self-evident at that stage. It's basically, it is what you are suggesting, despite realizing it, is fundamentally relativism and skepticism, because nothing can be known other than from it's not even known, because it's just an attempt to throw shit at the wall.
It's relative to us. Okay, we get his point. Let's move on to the next guy. We're almost done here. I'm going to end it for the night.
Hey.
In a couple
Welcome,
minutes.
go ahead whenever you're ready.
So, Mike, you said there's no ontology to logic?
No, there is. It's in the mind.
Okay, so the ontology exists in the mind?
The ontology of logic is brain chemistry, electrochemistry in the brain.
Okay, cool. So whatever I predicate as logic is just logic because it's produced by my mind then, because there's no actual external ontology to what's going on in my brain.
Yeah, so you can form logic in your brain, but the point is that valid logic has to have a specific configuration within the neural circuit.
Well, you just imported valid. Let's slow down. You said that logic, ontologically, is just a product of the brain. So logic, to me, logic is sticky notes.
What do you mean? That doesn't make any sense.
Logic I agree. This is the result. It's a reductio ad absurdum of your view. Because logic is not something that actually has, let me finish, doesn't actually have ontological status. It's just a product of the brain. So my brain produced that this is logic. And you can't actually point to or account for some kind of ontological thing called logic outside the brain. You need to accept that this is logic.
No, I don't have to, because that's false. Because logic, as defined as through empiricism and evidence,
well, as defined by wait.
Hey, you can't do this.
Slow down. You said before, logic is ontologically just produced and in the brain. My brain produced that sticky notes. This is what logic is.
Yeah, that would be a false statement because it's an identity error.
No, but now you're appealing to some kind of ontology outside of what's in the brain.
Listen.
This guy thinks he has a good point or something.
You're not listening to me. Ready?
Yeah, no. I'm holding you to your first premise.
Stop. Listen.
No, I'm not going to stop. Is your first premise, does that still stand?
If you're not going to let me respond.
Oh,
you do have to let him respond.
He's such a Jimbob fan. Oh, this is such like Jimbob tactics.
Jace, let him respond.
So you're changing your whole premise?
Let me respond.
Okay, go ahead. Change your premise.
So the statement logic is neurochemistry. That is empirically backed.
It doesn't. No. It doesn't matter what it's backed by.
Hold on.
I'm not holding on. I'm stopping you before you go on, Gish Gallop.
Hold
it
on.
doesn't matter what you say it's backed by. If you say the ontology, listen. If you say the ontology is just
let me respond.
Okay, hang on. You're both talking at once. Hang on. Okay, hang on. Chase, please, hang on. We do have to let him finish his answer. We have to let him finish his answer, and then if you object to something in the middle, then go ahead when he's done.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Mike.
So when I say logic is neurochemistry, that is something backed by the evidence, and I use my logic to come to that conclusion logically. Now, when you say
let him finish, Chase. Hang on.
Dude.
When you say logic is a piece of paper, well, that's definitionally false, because paper is not neurochemistry. That's an identity error, and we can empirically prove it with the evidence.
Your first premise is that logic has no ontology outside of the brain. Based on that first premise now, you can't say that there's something beyond what I predicate as logic, beyond whatever I predicate as logic is produced by the brain. By me saying logic is sticky notes, you can't you're importing all this other stuff that I haven't granted. And based on your own first premise, you can't back up. And then you start importing hilarious, huge, sweeping statements. I interpret the evidence. Well, you are now importing a standard.
He just say huge something sweeping statements. Evidence is a huge, crazy, sweeping statement now. Like, dude, these people, in my opinion, these people are lost. That's how I view it. It's unreasonable.
Standard that you're going to need to evaluate good evidence and bad evidence. Let me talk, Mike. Let me talk, Mike. Let me talk. Mike, let me talk, okay? I'm not finished yet. Okay, I'm not finished. There's that
Andrew Wilson comes after this guy, so we're going to listen to this guy, and then we're going to go to Andrew Wilson, and then we're going to shut down the stream. It is 2 a.m. where I am, so...
Atheist love. There's that atheist love. So again, you're appealing now to some kind of ontological thing that you're going to appeal to for evaluating good evidence and bad evidence and what's logic and what's not logic. But based on your own premise of logic just being ontologically generated by the brain, I can say logic is this sticky note. And you can't point to anything.
Right. That would be like saying this phone is a tree. That's wrong, right?
Well, no, now you're appealing to ontology.
No, if you would just let me speak.
You're a nominalist.
No, listen. So the ontology of logic is brain chemistry. And that's something that we can empirically prove. When you say
proof is based on a system that appeals to, yes, it is.
Yes, it's based on empiricism and logic.
Which you would have to, but logic is what's in question right now. And like logic is just produced by the brain.
Yes.
You're appealing, focus. You're now appealing to all of these ontologies, and you've denied access to ontology because you're not. Let me finish. You cried about not letting people finish.
No.
Stop whining, Mike. Focus.
This is embarrassing.
Oh my God, I can't stand this guy.
Just so you know, when you try to do.
Hang on, you're doing it again, guys. You're doing it again. Hang on. You're both talking at the same time, though. Nobody can understand you guys.
It has to be controlled.
I know. Listen. Hang on, Chase, please. Hang on.
I'm the guy debating here. This is.
I know. Hang on, Chase, please, Chase. We do have to give him the opportunity to respond. You are just the caller here. Okay, make your point brief so that he can respond to it. And then Mike, try to make your response brief because there's a lot of overlap with you guys talking. But yeah, go ahead, Chase.
So again, every time you just tried to appeal to the law of identity, you just said, well, this phone pointing to ontology linked to an idea and a concept of phone is a tree. You said, oh, you can't do that. On your worldview, because you're a nominalist, you can't actually say that there's ontology to tree, phone, logic, and something that's not logical.
Why not?
Because you can't account for ontology, like Fresh even just pointed out.
Why not?
Because they're produced.
What? We as humans can definitionally categorize different types of things based on these things, different types of properties. So a phone clearly has very many different properties from a tree. A phone is made by humans. Phones don't grow in the ground. They don't need water in order to work. In fact, water breaks phones. They are technological. It is a technology device. You can't use a tree to call somebody. We can easily describe all different types of things. I don't know why this guy thinks he has some brilliant point here.
It's in
for
the brain.
ontology. Yeah, give an account
Because
for the
two
ontology
brains,
like
because
this.
it's not
Why
here.
not?
Mike,
Why
Mike,
not?
here's why.
Why not?
Here's why, Mike. I'll say the contradiction. Two different brains can produce two different ontologies about objects in the world.
Okay, and
is that logically possible under your view?
Yeah, but the
Okay,
person
that's
who's
all.
describing something that is fallacious would be a false.
How do you
statement.
have a standard of what's fallacious and what's not?
By observing them.
I observed
And
that your view-
verifying that.
Observation, verifiability, and testing. That's how. It's really not that fucking complicated.
fallacious.
Look,
So
look,
now
look.
what?
Do you agree that I can verify that this is a phone and not a tree?
No, not in your worldview, not at all.
No,
You're
no,
an
no, no.
anomalist.
Why not? Why can't I observe this to be a phone?
What
and
is
not
the
a tree?
ontology of phone and of tree?
Empirics. There's
Empirics
empirical,
and
there's
empirics
empirical
leads you
math.
Everything I just said. A tree grows in the ground. A phone does not grow in the ground. Trees are not made by humans. Phones are made by humans. You can call somebody on a phone. You can't call somebody with a tree. Trees need water and sunlight to grow. Phones don't grow and don't need sunlight or water to work. There are tons of different properties and descriptors for us as humans to understand the world around us and identify and categorize all different types of things. I would love to know how he understands what a tree and a phone is based on his belief in God.
It's the truth. How do you account for that? And what is the ontology
What do you mean?
of
How do I?
empirics?
Hold on.
Mike, what's the
What do you mean-
ontology of the word empirics?
What do you mean? How do I account for matter?
What's the
You don't think I-
ontology of the
Hold-
word empirics? What
listen,
idea
listen,
ontologically does that point to?
Listen. What do you mean I can't account for matter? What does that mean?
The idea of matter,
Categories.
when you say the word matter,
Why
you're
can't I use my
pointing.
mind to
I'm
describe
talking,
matter?
Mike. I'm talking.
Why can't I use my mind to describe
Mike,
matter?
I'm talking. You're
Okay,
interrupting
okay,
me.
hang on. Before you finish,
It's
Chase,
just
we
so
do need
dishonest.
to
This
make
is
this your
not
final.
dishonest.
Chase, hang on. Mike,
Yeah,
Chase,
Chase,
both of you,
this is dishonest.
stop, guys, stop. Listen, Chase, need this to be your final point because we do have to move on. We got a bunch of
For
callers
sure.
still.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I just think it's funny that the child cries about being dishonest and interrupting, and then he interrupts. But so again, you're appealing to when you say matter. How can I not account for matter? The word matter. You're using that word to point as a referent to point out an ontological idea. But you can't account for ontology, and you've negated
Mind.
having
It's mind.
access to any. I'm talking,
mind.
Mike. Mike, I'm
Logic.
talking. Mike, I'm talking. Mike, I'm talking. Mike. You can't account for these things. You've even
I
admitted
can.
it.
It's through the mind.
It's through the mind, which is
Yes.
determined, and you have no verification principle
Why
to determine what's true. or not.
why can't I determine things to be
We
verified?
do have
What's your
verification
verification principle?
principles.
The idea that you can
Observation
verify something to be true
and
by observing.
testing.
Your verification principle is the idea that you can verify something to be
by
true.
comparative analysis, right?
And how
by,
do you compare what's true and false, Mike?
by observing these things and seeing if they comport to reality or
And
not.
how do you know what comports to reality?
By observing it,
Using logic.
using my brain, yes, and my
And
logic.
logic has
my
no
ability to
ontological
observe.
status. Thank you. This was very fun.
The
Appreciate it.
what
buddy.
doesn't have ontological status?
All right, thank you for the call in,
Bye.
Chase.
Thank
We
you.
can't
Matter-
continue it. It's just
So
taking up too much
retarded.
time.
Matter has ontological status in the
All right, so this is going to be the last here. We'll let
empirical world. The logic also does in the mind. There's a distinguishing factor there. of
Well,
course.
Mike, I
Because
think
we
he was saying
we
not
can
to.
we can verify things to be true based on observing them and describing them in certain ways. And if there's a fallacy there, we can point that out. It's all deterministic, and there's no contradiction there at all.
I think he was saying that
Make it quick,
things,
Jimbob.
categories like matter or even the external world itself as an abstract is not identical to the things we're describing. And what he's saying is there's no grounding in your view for the ontology of the concepts you're using, like phone and
It's in
tree.
the mind.
There's no grounding in yours either.
Right? The mind grounds all those things.
If again, what Jay said, if the mind grounds those, then two minds that ground two different definitions of those things, it basically brings into question, well, who has the correct ontology,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah,
I
exactly.
know.
That's how we compare.
He
We say, hey,
thinks
this
he made
phone
a
is a
point.
phone,
It's
not a
so
tree.
funny.
That is something that anybody can do and verify. And that's how logic is done, right? Like we can ground logic in the brain, and we can ground matter in the universe.
They can't ground their beliefs, these ontological things either, right? All they say is God is truth. That statement in itself doesn't make it true. Saying that as a statement, I know that's your faith and that's your belief, and that is totally fine, and I respect that. But don't pretend like you know that you are closer to objective truth than I am because you have this belief in God. I think that is what's silly. And I don't think I know objective truth more than you do because I don't believe in God. That's the whole point. All right, I think they're about to bring on Andrew Wilson, and then after Andrew Wilson's call, I'm going to call it a night.
That's it.
Says truth is a way of thinking that leads flesh and $10. Or truth is accurate. When I respond to
When we verify things, right?
Dude,
in our brains that determine what is true or false based on doing.
No.
People tend to believe in God, but it has to verify that those.
in the backstage before I welcome Andrew. Go ahead whenever you're ready.
Yeah. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Mike, how would you do a comparative analysis to this statement? I want to do what's good. What would be the comparative analysis from your brain
versus
to tell me what is good?
Sense.
Yeah, tell me what's good, Mike.
Good is just what we prefer. That's to me. There's nothing.
So
there's no ontology about goodness in the universe.
It's just preference.
Yeah, morality is preference, especially under a Christian view, because God's morality is God's preference.
Yeah,
too.
forget a Christian view. But if it's just preference, my question here is why should we go with your preference?
Well, depending on the consequences, and this is an entire medical ethical discussion. But the point is that we compare whose morality tends to yield better results.
It's just a preference.
And, that's all. Yeah.
It's just a preference. Well, what do you mean results? Well, when you say results, what do you mean results? Who's right? Who's standard? Who's standard? Who's standard?
Look, if I punch you in the face and it hurts you, right? That's a result that you don't like, right?
Yeah, but I think if you punch me in the face, I should be able to have sex with your wife. Why am I wrong, Mike?
Listen.
Mike, why am I wrong? If the punitive damage is if you punch me in the face, I get to fuck your wife. Why is that wrong, Mike?
Because you're harming somebody.
Yeah, no, you harmed me, Mike. And in order to stop you from doing future harm, I know that'll stop you. Why is that a bad analysis, Mike?
This is utterly embarrassing, right?
Yeah, no, it is embarrassing for you. Why is it? Why is it, Mike?
Stop. Listen. Morality is a very nuanced.
Two things can be wrong. Punching someone in the face can be wrong, especially for no reason and not in self-defense, right? In self-defense, punching someone in the face could be not necessarily right, but, not a wrong thing to do. Sleeping with somebody's wife to get revenge on somebody for punching you in the face is inherently wrong because we value relationships. We value commitment. Commitment is something that is important to humans. Correct? Right? So, if you want to go ahead and sleep with someone's wife because they punched you in the face, fine. It's like the common saying, 2 wrongs don't make a right. Both of these things can be wrong. That doesn't mean that, it makes it right all of a sudden. This is a stupid point again.
There's an entire field of metaethics that tries to attempt to discover what is the best ethical system.
Oh, I didn't know that, Mike. I don't want a story. I want you to answer my question, Mike.
I'm trying to. You're not.
Yeah, answer the question. Don't talk about a story. I don't care about your story.
The point is that ethics is subjective to me, and unless you can show some objectivity here, you have no argument. Because
if it's
your ethics is subjective too.
So if it's just subjective, this is what I'm saying to you, though. If it's just subjective, Mike, if it's just your preference or my preference, then the only thing.
It sounds like. Sorry, I'm going to let him go on. But what it sounds like is that these people don't like that morality is subjective. And it's inconvenient that morality is subjective. And to be honest, it is inconvenient that morality is subjective. And they don't like that. So therefore, they're saying that it can't be true, which doesn't logically compute. That just doesn't make sense. Just because something is inconvenient and, it would be better if it was another way, doesn't make it true or not true. Yes, it is inconvenient that morality is subjective amongst humans. That doesn't mean that objective morality exists, though.
That if you punched me, I get to have sex with your wife. That stopping that from happening is just what? You get more people to side with your preference than I do mine?
No, what I would do is and analyze the consequences of those actions.
Yeah.
What if she really liked it? Then
my
my
actions would then be aligned with what achieves the best results.
But what does result mean? The result for me,
the result is subjective. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so what if the result of me, if the punishment was anybody who punched anybody else in the face, their wife got essayed? That was the result. Do you think that would lead to less people getting punched?
We would never subscribe to that ethical system.
Yeah, no. What do you mean? Why wouldn't we?
Because we don't prefer that.
Now, well, again, if it's just a matter of preference, then as long as I get enough people on my side for preference to prefer it, that's fine, right?
Well, okay,
that's
great. Congratulations, Andrew. You live in a world with other people who disagree with you.
Shut it.
Yeah, no. So all I want is your permission to tell me that as long as I get enough people on my side for that preference, it's fine, right?
You're yapping. Okay, great. The point is that A secular system.
Shut the fuck up, Mike. I'm talking, Mike.
There we go.
Hang on. Let's let him respond here. Let him respond.
So the point is that a secular system is one that attempts to achieve the most desirable results.
Sorry, I'm
for all
back
people.
listening to Andrew.
Of course, there's disagreements on the bottom, but the point is that if we can agree with we can make certain agreements in certain societies, that's an ethical system. And yes, it's preference-based, but still valid. And you don't need God. You don't need objectivity at all.
Last question for you, Mike. You said that the laws of logic exist within the mind. They don't exist external to the mind, so these are not discovered. These are things which are innate to a mind.
Logic is what the brain does, yes.
Okay. So if no human beings existed, could a planet be anything other than a planet?
Yeah, that question itself is a logical question, a logical statement you're making.
Yeah,
it's a descriptive statement,
Yeah,
which in itself is mind-dependent. So again,
no,
you're
it's not
making
nope, it's not mind-dependent.
Yes, it is.
Let me go back like a minute because I was distracted by the rabbit. Morality isn't subjective. It's actually part of reality itself. It's objective. Think of a house of cards built upon lies. That house coming down would be objective morality. I don't think I understand the house of cards analogy. I just don't understand how morality could be a part of reality. I think it's a part of our subjective view. Right? So I would subjectively think that like killing a pedophile is a morally good thing, right? Because this person is harming children. That's going to affect their lives forever. But subjectively, that pedophile is not going to think that his death is moral. And there's nothing I can do. There's just nothing I can do about that. It is very inconvenient. It is a problem that humans have been trying to solve for centuries. But just because it is difficult does not mean that objective reality has to exist. It would be very convenient if there was an objective morality. But I think for the most part, the majority of humans can come to agree on what morals are the best. And of course, we can't agree on everything, but I think for the most part, we do agree on the bigger things. Unnecessary human suffering, right? We would agree that's not moral. An unjustified killing. Sexual assault, right? Aggressing towards somebody outside of self-defense. Stealing from somebody. And then there's deeper moral questions like, is it really immoral to steal if you're doing that to feed your family? I personally wouldn't say so. So how can these things be objective if there is so much subjectivity within these questions and within these situations? If morality wasn't tied to objective reality, why do you not want somebody to lie to you? I don't want somebody to lie to me because in my subjective experience, that lie hurts me. It's very simple.
A secular system.
Shut the fuck up, Mike. I'm talking, Mike.
There we go.
Hang on.
But like, if somebody lies to me, does that mean that like the whole universe is objectively like worse off now? That's just, it subjectively hurts me that somebody lied to me. I don't think it's going to alter the entire course of the universe, or like this is some crazy like law against the universe to lie to somebody. It will change the nature of reality for you. Yeah, it's deceiving to deceive somebody, especially without a good reason, is going to be immoral. But I don't think like morality has anything to do with reality. Morality has to do with our experience as humans and our well-being.
Yeah, let's let him respond here. Let him respond.
So the point is that a secular system is one that attempts to achieve the most desirable results for all people. Now, of course, there's disagreements on the bottom, but the point is that if we can agree with we can make certain agreements in certain societies, that's an ethical system. And yes, it's preference-based, but still valid. And you don't need God. You don't need objectivity at all.
Last question for you, Mike. You said that the laws of logic exist within the mind. They don't exist external to the mind, so these are not discovered. These are things which are innate to a mind
Logic
state.
is what the brain does, yes.
Okay. So if no human beings existed, could a planet be anything other than a planet?
Yeah, that question itself is a logical question, a logical statement you're making.
Yeah, I
it's
know.
a descriptive statement,
Yeah,
which in itself is mind dependent. So
yeah,
again,
no, it's not
making
it's not mind dependent.
Yes, it is.
No, in fact, it's into the hypothetical. Where's the contradiction, Mike? Mike, where's the contradiction?
The point is that you're
Where's
making
the contradiction, Mike?
You're making a descriptive statement.
Where's the contradiction?
You're making a mind-dependent descriptive statement that does not need. I'm not saying it's impossible to be mind-independent, but it doesn't need mind independency.
Okay, yeah, okay. So if there was no minds around, could a planet be something other than a planet?
You're not understanding. I just answered that, but the fact that you didn't answer that question means you don't understand what I just told you.
Yeah, because you didn't tell me anything.
The very statement, right? You're saying, "Oh, what if minds didn't exist? Would there still be planets out there?" Well, yeah, but the description.
No, that's not what I'm asking. I'm not asking if there could still be planets out there.
Well-being isn't moral. LOL. The aristocrats were after their well-being when they were colonized. Yeah, but were they affecting other people's well-beings? Right? Like, just because you're inducing your well-being, if that is at the if somebody else's well-being is at the is the cost of your well-being, that is most likely immoral in most situations. Ultimately, morality to me comes down to how we treat others. I feel like, me personally, animals are included in this. How we treat other human, or how we treat other beings that have a conscious experience. So, like, to cut down a tree, I don't really think that's immoral. But now if you're cutting down enough trees to the point where it's causing deforestation and killing off a bunch of animals, that is like probably an immoral thing to me. But I mean, that's even like a little bit of an aloof example. But morality to me, it has nothing to do with reality. It has to do with how us as subjects feel and how we treat each other. Yeah, but all well-being comes at the expense of somebody else's well-being. I don't think that's true. No, I don't think that's true. I mean, yeah, that's why I said the deforestation, I can't talk, I'm getting tired, is a little bit of an aloof example, or not the best example, but still, like, if there were other ways to do this without deforestation, would that be more moral? Then yeah. You know what I mean? Personally, I believe there probably are, but that's a whole different conversation. So, but yeah, like, I can 100% improve my well-being without somebody else's well-being as the expense. For me to eat a plate of food requires millions of deaths. I mean, it depends how I'm doing it, right? If I hunt a deer and eat a deer, that required one death, but I wouldn't consider that immoral because that is just part of nature. Yeah, I mean, I think there's tons of fucked up things with our whole entire food system. And if I could change that, I definitely would. And it hurts me to think about, honestly. But, like, that's not really up to me. But anyways, like, on a personal level, I mean, like, if I'm trying to better my life, it doesn't have to be at the expense of somebody else. If I'm trying to better my relationship, it doesn't mean that somebody else's relationship is going to be worse because of mine. If I'm trying to better my health, it doesn't mean that somebody else's health is going to be worse. if I'm trying to be nice to other people, it doesn't mean that, like, that causes other people to be mean.
I'm asking if a planet that was still out there be anything other than a planet.
Yeah, so you're saying the laws of logic still apply to a universe in which there's no humans.
Yeah.
Well, the point is, logic in itself is merely a descriptive, mind-dependent thing. Logic
Yeah,
does not
I think I
exist
just
without
demonstrated
humans.
it's not.
Logic itself doesn't exist without humans.
Yeah, no, I think it does. I think that a thing can't
You're
not
not
be.
listening. This is why you're still a Christian. You don't listen.
A thing can't change its
Listen,
nature just
listen.
because we don't exist anymore.
Listen. Look, the point is that when you ask that question, do planets exist or do planets exist not exist at the same time? That is merely a descriptive statement you're making, and that is completely mind-dependent.
No, it's a question.
And there's nothing truthful about
I didn't
the
make a
universe
descriptive
beyond
statement.
our mind.
I asked a question.
There's no truth or logic beyond the mind, our minds.
I didn't ask a descriptive, or I didn't make a descriptive statement. I asked a question. I mean, I ask it again, you're not going to answer it. But here's the question, not the descriptive statement. If you, Mike, did not exist, you in your mind did not exist, a planet which is out there, would that still exist? And if it would, could it be anything other than what it is?
Of course, the planet would still
And
exist.
could it be anything other than what it is?
But the
Can it be anything other than what it is?
No, of course.
Okay, then shut up, Mike, you fucking idiot. Goodbye, Mike.
And law of identity holds. One other thing there. One other thing there, Mike, is that what if we said?
Hang on. Wait.
This is not honest. This is not
No,
honest.
go ahead and respond to it, Mike. He's off now, but
All right,
go ahead, Mike.
after his response, I'm gonna go.
I talk to a lot of Christians, and they say the same thing. The point is, you're confusing the map for the territory. The universe is ontology, is separate from our minds. Of course, the universe is separate than our mind. So when you ask, well, would the universe exist without us? That statement would be true if there's a mind there to describe that thing. If there's no minds there to describe it, yes, the ontology would still be there, but the truth value would not be there at all. The true statement wouldn't exist because truth is merely what describes reality. So the description wouldn't exist.
Right.
But the universe would. Whatever the universe is, we don't know the ontology, it would still exist. That's why his
Right, so
question is wrong.
reality would exist, right, before the minds, right?
Whatever reality is. Yes.
Right, so would reality, it's just like Andrew asked, let's swap planet for reality. Would reality...
All right, I feel like that solves that. That's enough. I feel like Mike's response to that made sense, and he agreed that obviously reality would exist if we weren't here. He's saying that truth is a descriptive statement. He's basically giving that second definition of truth that I read earlier. But yeah, I'm getting tired, so I'm gonna go. I think my next stream, I might end up watching that other debate with Vegan Gains and Made by Jimbob. Maybe we'll watch that in full. Maybe I'll do like an open panel or something. I'm not sure. Maybe I'll find something else to cover. I'm getting a little tired of Jimbob, so maybe I'll find another similar debate to this theology kind of stuff. But yeah, if you guys have stayed with me this long, thank you so much, or thank you for, tuning in at all. Please like the stream if you did indeed like the stream, and I will catch you guys next time. I really do appreciate our conversations, even though we all not all, but lots of us disagree on here. I like how we can have respectful conversations about this stuff, because I love talking about this stuff. I always have. Alright, let me find my outro. Good night, everybody. See you guys next time.